Nice. We're live. I'll let people come on in, as I do have a few things I wanted to share in regards to our journey to peace, our journey to healing. Somewhat to do with recent detox and all of that I've gotten a lot of questions about. Hello. Is it Hillbilly? Hillbilly. Nice. So say hello if you're here. I'm going to wait a few moments before I dive into some of the kind of common questions, topics that I've been getting around, not just the process of, fasting and healing in this regard, but the whole journey to peace, to our natural state. What does it mean to return to the natural state? It's actually a very ordinary thing, really. But it's everything. It's everything that we could ever want or imagine that we would want. And it's the foundation to all desires, foundation to every desire. Every desire essentially is the desire to know ourselves. And once this is translated, like today I was leading a meditation, and the conversation led into an understanding of how we translate all of our experience into a meditation of sorts. And of course, you hear this often, but really we could connect this back to a teaching from the freedom teachings, and which is common in a lot of traditions, similar to topics like devotion, having devotion for God, for source, for love. But essentially, the main teaching here is that we are reminded that all desire is essentially a cultivation towards or into the ultimate desire. What is the ultimate desire? And what is it to live by this ultimate desire? Well, the ultimate desire is essentially to know ourselves, to know the source of creation and our subjective creation, more specifically. So, if we can understand that all desire, all movement of desire in our everyday experience is essentially this, or underlying is essentially this ultimate desire. Everything we do is to seek to know love or peace or joyfulness or, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then we could say that every desire is fueled by this ultimate desire, because everything we ever do is only to experience a deeper sense of ourselves, to know ourselves. And to know ourselves means to return to the natural state. And what is the natural state? Or what is the self? It is love, peace, joyfulness. It is all of the things in which we're desiring. So when we say that we are seeking to know ourselves through food or through going to a ball game or, starting a project or going to see a friend or something like this, we're essentially at the core seeking to know ourselves. We're seeking to know the foundation of all creation, which is love, peacefulness, joyfulness, right? A constant state of this, where this is known throughout all moments, all experiences, everything we do, every time we eat some food, every time we go to the ball game, every time we see a friend, we are experiencing this same peace. So nothing is fluctuating or changing this knowing of ourselves and the natural state, right? So to live by that ultimate desire is ultimately to create a practice. Initially, it's to create a practice around all moments, to see that how can we remain in the presence of a meditation through everything that we experience. And of course, this is an infinite and eternal and endless practice, because everything about our human nature, at least in the bodies we're existing in now, and the lower ego, is essentially designed to move us in a different direction from resting in that ultimate desire, or resting in the knowing of what it is we're actually seeking through, relationships and situations, circumstances, experiences, etc., right? So it's a very vast and large topic, and some would say a deep it could be a very deep topic, but also it's the most ordinary of topics, because when we actually look and take for a moment to see, okay, well, what is it that we're actually seeking behind any particular desire? It is only ever to experience ourselves, which is, again, ourselves being defined as love, peacefulness, joyfulness, all the qualities of the nature of source, right? So to understand that everything that is done is designed to be a reminder of this, then this is the transformation, right? This is the transformation where we are beginning to not differentiate between this and that, black or white, good or bad, high or lower, better or worse, past, future, all of the dualities that the mind presents us, where there's a certain surrender that occurs, right? And the surrender and letting go will translate into things like, let's say, the food. Obviously, I've been sharing about, my experiences with fasting and detox and all of that. Well, fasting and all that has just been a foundational practice within all spiritual tradition, because it's the most foundational and fundamental way in which we surrender and let go. Because the majority of the time, when there is a movement of emotional energy, a movement of something uncomfortable, a movement of something that the mind says, oh, I don't like this, then that movement will generally translate into some form of consumption. And the foundation of that consumption will often be food, but it could be many things: entertainment and sex and approval and all kinds of things, right? But food is fundamental because it's the most foundational aspect of our earthly life. So when we notice that, when we notice this translation of discomfort or emotional stagnation or creative energy that isn't moving, or a lack of connection and intimacy, which is a very core one, then there will be a movement into a desire for food, and that will move into the consumption flows, and then that will snowball into many other forms of consumption, right? So often if we're in fasting, we won't want to sleep as much. We won't want to really be engaging in sexual activity that much. We won't really care for entertainment too much. All of those forms of consumption won't be as consistent, because the energy, that snowball, the foundational snowball energy, which is the food, isn't moving. So because that's not moving, then all of them calm down, all of them come back to ground, right? So once we recognize this as a practice, then what we start to notice is that if fundamentally everything we do is to seek to know ourselves, to seek to know love, the peacefulness, the joy, a consistent state of this, then we could say that in the times where we have forgotten ourselves, desires move more intensely, right? So if desires are moving more intensely, then we are more called into manipulating our experience, manifesting a desire, creating a circumstance to change the circumstance we're in, i.e. consuming or doing whatever. There's a consistent movement, there's a need to make things happen so that we escape what we're feeling, essentially. So when we come back to practices that are showing us less is more, right? Less food, less sex, less money, less movement of consumption, then what is revealed is the natural state. The consistent peace, the consistent love, the consistent joyfulness that is not happening dependent on some circumstance changing. It's happening in spite of any circumstance changing. It's happening all the time. It's happening consistently. It's the foundational experience. That is what practices like fasting or celibacy or retention or anything where we're practicing less is more, which is a very opposite practice than what we've come to know in the Western world. Even in the New Age spiritual marketplace, where everyone feels like they need to manifest more, create more, do more practices, more ceremonies, more things, more. But all of the practices that are really going to bring that are the practices that require less, right? The meditation, so less noise, more silence, right? The fasting, less consumption, more silence in the physical body so the body can heal, right? Less entertainment, less all of the forms of consumption. So this is how we connect the two, right? Where we connect the seeking to know the self, which is enlightenment, the awakening to our natural state, with the many different practices that could be unveiled there. But meditation and fasting, in my opinion, are probably two of the most fundamental, in conjunction with, embodiment work. Because meditation is not just we silence the mind. Meditation is we're resolving incomplete energetic miasmic buildup, which is little balls of energy that are stuck in the anatomy, emotional energy that is stagnant or unresolved, right? This has to be, brought to balance and harmony. And just those, I mean, we could say a lot about it, but I'm just going to check the comments because I haven't checked on it. Someone is... Oh, you can come on live in a second if you have a question or something. I just want to look at the comments. Figs mucus forming? Not so much. I would say they're very little. Could be maybe a little bit more than little, because I do find they are a bit heavier. The dried fruits are nice though. They'll really get the kidneys moving, and I find the dried fruits can really get things filtering very quickly. Raisins somewhat, yeah. I'm juice fasting and all these things are happening. No desire for sleep, no desire to be sexual. Yeah, exactly. Often, again, you're looking at the most foundational aspect of the consumptive pattern, and a lot of our sexual patterns are consumptive, right? A lot of the sleep patterns are consumptive. Sleep in so many ways is a death paradigm, right? It's not a natural thing to be sleeping the amount that we do. We are in a place of healing and regeneration, so sleep can be very helpful, and it can be actually very healing because we can access dimensional states that are gonna promote more healing. Because our conscious mind is not in the way, so our subconscious will reveal things. So that can be helpful, but I know, when you're fasting, you're just not going to sleep as much. And also, the key is understanding that it's recognizing the flow and the fluidity of energy. So if we are in a creative state and we're in connection with others, we're in movements of our energy, connection with nature. Connection with others doesn't always need to be physical. We can spend time in our meditations connecting to higher councils, connecting to beings, connecting to energies, connecting to people through prayer, praying for someone, praying for the collective, praying for earth, praying for nature. We can go into nature and commune with the plants and the animals. There's many things that we can do that doesn't always require to be face to face with somebody. But this is a way in which we're moving the energy, right? So when we're consuming less, we have all this excess energy that starts to build, but that energy needs to move. And if it doesn't, that's what forces us back into the consumptive pattern, because that energy is too strong, right? And it has nowhere to go. So it builds up, and then it can become uncomfortable. Something that is actually very blissful, is very beautiful, becomes uncomfortable, right? So energy always has to be moving. If you have a question about sleep, you can ask it in the comments right now. I just want to go back. I slept too much because of depression. Yeah, often, right? We're going to sleep. I know so many times I tried to sleep. I try to sleep to avoid things, right? Sleep to die, essentially, right? You want to kill off the depression. You want to kill off that aspect of self, right? So you'd rather sleep, right? So if sleep is so healing and we sleep too much, how does one determine when we're using sleep to escape versus heal? Well, you'll kind of know, right? And also, again, it's all interconnected. So if you look at when we're not eating so much, we're not going to sleep too much. You're going to wake up vital. You're going to wake up with the sun, right? So just even simple ways where you don't need to be full on fasting, but if you're eating much less, not eating too late, keeping the window of eating small, keeping the juices and the fruits and hydration up, keeping your blind open, when you go to bed, so the sun will wake you up. You'll wake up in the sun. The body has a way of showing you what it naturally wants to do, but sometimes, I do this too. We'll go back to bed, then you wake up more tired, right? Or you eat too late, and then you're all lethargic and things like this, right? So that's one side. Then the other side is understanding that, again, the energy needs to be moving. So if we are too much in our heads, thinking about our problems and what we want to do and our hopes and dreams and all that, or spending too much time on technology maybe, or doing things that are not conducive to the movement of our energy, right? Going for a walk, being in nature, going to connect with some friends, or going to sing in the forest. I do this all the time. There's so many ways in which we can keep the energy moving. If the energy is cycling, firstly, we won't want to sleep, right? Because the energy is cycling, we'll feel so alive, right? Before we go to bed. If you're going to bed, it'll just be habitual at that point. And then secondly, even if you do go to sleep, your sleep will carry that energy forward. Most of my dreams are just crossovers of my everyday life, or psychic visions of what's going to happen tomorrow, or things like this. So it's quite fun. Just going back in the comments. Just say hello if you're here. I'm waving at everyone. I've noticed when depressed, I can sleep endlessly, even upon waking unconsciously, just prevent myself from... Yeah, exactly. I happen to be fasting, but also clearing a lot of trauma. I sometimes have energy, and other times, yeah, that's fine. You have to listen to the body. Sometimes you're going to be KO'd, right? And your body's just going to need rest. But again, it's a listening to the body, not to the mind or the habits that the mind's created. Like, it's 3 a.m, you're filled with energy. Oh, I gotta sleep. I have to go to sleep. It's like, well, you don't have to. You have to listen to the body. So it's just go to sleep when you're tired, wake up when you're not. Right? And once you just follow the simple approach of that, you start to understand and see how clear it really becomes, And so then as the traumas heal, as your energy starts to activate more conducive to a creative movement, right? So you're in a place of service, in a place of giving value, helping the friends with a garden, I don't know, like talking to a friend late who needs someone to talk to, working on a project, doing some podcast, doing creative stuff. There's all kinds of things that can be done. So as we're focusing more on that energy of service, not from like martyrdom where we got to help everyone and not take care of our body and our and this individual expression, but what we'll see is that that's one of the highest ways we can take care of this, because we feel, we all know that how great we feel when we give. We are receiving when we give. So it doesn't have to be anything drastic. You don't need to be living some gigantic legacy and, I don't know, helping millions of people. All that stuff can be very, very, very quickly turned into nonsense. It has to be just from the authentic space of your heart, That could be helping a stranger. It could be smiling at someone. That could be many things. But the more that energy is moving, then we see that the energy, you create your own energy from that field. You're like the sun. The sun's not worried about giving too much to the planets, right? It's not going to be worried about that. So we have to recognize that when we have come to know that energy within ourselves and the power of that force that can be giving, then we will light up and we will light up everything around us, right? Even just by being. You can be silent if you like. So yeah, just listen to the body. While I'm fasting, I don't need as much medications. I don't eat coffee. It's great actually, but my mind feels like I need to eat all this food. Yeah, well, the mind is addicted, right? Food is our number one addiction after thought. Thinking is our number one addiction, but food will be quite quickly after that, right? So just understanding that much of our eating is habitual. It's not out of necessity. And this starts to really push against a lot of the nutritional ideas that we may have held. I know for myself, I came from the fitness, protein, and eat your chicken salad type world 10 years ago. So I had to move through a lot of that programming and conditioning. But we have to be willing to experiment, right? And then face the flaming fire of what the mind presents us in regards to when you're changing those neural networks. Right? But everyone who's heard me speak to this and the methods that I teach in my course and when I do one-on-one stuff or on Instagram, whatever, it's a 2-step forward, 1 step back process, or 3 steps forward, 1 step back, like whatever combination. It's a methodical and cyclical phased approach. So we can't be pushing too hard. right? If we're pushing too hard, you're going to face the pendulum. So it's just being mindful of that. Yeah, being mindful of that, and being mindful of our individual pace. But recognizing and appreciating the benefits, because when you start saying things like, "Oh, I don't need my medication, I don't need my coffee, I don't need my marijuana, I don't need my alcohol, I don't need my sleep, I don't eat my 3 meals a day, I don't need to be spending $500-600 a month on food or whatever. I don't need," like, all these things start to fall away, and you start to see how abundant you feel, how joyful you feel, right? So we have to stay clear about that and recognize, oh yeah, this is what happens when I make these shifts, right? So it's not just a 3-day juice cleanse on the weekend, in the springtime, and then we go back. This is a long process, because not because it has to be, but because we see the benefits, right? We see the healing. I posted about my healing journey, and my healing journey was extreme in some ways, and other ways not. There's other people who've been far more deathly ill than me, with cancers and heart disease, and I've seen everything in the book heal. Everything you can possibly imagine, I've seen heal. So there's no limitation. We can't put any limitation on this, and then any limitation on ourselves. And we just got to walk the path. That's it. Keep on it. Take a very dose of antipsychotic. Don't wake up much at night, but sleep. Blah, blah, blah. I need about 10 to 11 hours of sleep. That's a lot of sleep. So we have to look at, well, what's causing that, right? What's causing that drain of energy? Where's the leak? So you're speaking on a medication. So medication often can be quite taxing. So that's one. Obviously, we have to look at what the consumption pattern is. What's the food that's being eaten? It's a bunch of mucus-forming foods, breads, meats, processed food, sugars, a lot of cooked stuff, not much juices, not much fruit, not much raw. It's very simple. We can look and see, well, where's the energy drain? If you're a male, are you releasing your semen and seed? Is that being retained? How long has that been retained? That's another big one. What's the work like? How many hours of work are you doing? Do you actually enjoy it, or is it stressful as hell? How's the relationships? The dynamics of relationships can be so draining if there's not alignment in relationships, right? So we have to look at where those leaks are, and we'll know. You just look at yourself. It's so obvious to tell. Be honest with ourselves. We got to be honest. Where is the leak, right? Where am I getting? Where do I feel like I'm being drained, or I'm draining others? Because if someone is being drained, then they're also draining something else, right? So you're being drained, then draining it from, I got to sleep longer, so we're draining energy from ourselves. Or I got to eat more because I feel emotionally stagnant, so I got to eat more, so I'm draining myself more. My colon is heavily inflamed from all the food, so it's pushing against my prostate. Prostate's activating the sexual energy. I want to release. In a male body, I want to release, so ejaculate, release the seed, sacred fluid, gone, energy, gone. At least 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks takes to build that up. It takes longer, but at least to see the energy come back, right? So it's a lot. Can I still access these other dimensions under low? Well, you said a slumber, low antipsychotic slumber. So what does a slumber mean, right? We're in the fog. The majority of the population is in the fog due to the fact that they don't know a lot of these principles, and then on top of the fact that they don't know a lot of these principles, they're being bombarded. We're all being bombarded, but at least if you know these principles, the bombarding of 5G and all the myriad of propaganda and fear-based mongering and control and trauma, all that crap, all that is nullified when we know these principles for the most part, right? Because those things hardly affect us. They still affect us. It's gonna be way better when it's not there, but we can handle ourselves. We can still do what we need to do, and attain the higher levels, or the inner levels, the balanced levels, harmonious levels that we're seeking, or that we know to be true, right? My body will get sudden fatigue, slow me down. When I have processing to do, I used to get frustrated yeah, exactly, right? So if you know you have processing to do, yeah, because remember, you can either meditate or you can go to sleep. They will actually provide similar benefits. The thing is, though, when you meditate, you're doing it consciously. And anything we do consciously is, of course, going to provide copious amount more benefits, because we're activating, connecting to awareness, to ourselves, to the true nature. So we can experience it consciously, and it's so much more enjoyable, right? But we can also go deep sleep. It's like those sleeps you just like fall asleep and you wake up and you're full of energy again. Well, yeah, it's similar to meditation, right? Can I heal as much with less sleep? Probably disturb cycles. I'm not sure what that means, actually. Does the pendulum happen with meditation, surrender too, like suddenly being immersed in stillness? Well, recognize that stillness and peace is our natural state. So if you're living unnaturally, then when you connect to that peace and that stillness, the mind will start to shake, right? The energy, the emotions, things will start to shake because they're releasing. They cannot exist in that frequency range, right? Because you're connecting to stillness, to source. So you're connecting to a more harmonious frequency range. So when that's the case, everything within the anatomy also has to assimilate or come into that same oscillation, right? It wants to balance with that. So yes, you're going to have a bit of the pendulum, but the key with the pendulum understanding is like the less dramatic. Well, how shall I term this? The more subtle we become in our energy and how we're connecting to a stillness, to stillness and peace rather than blissfulness, like I spoke to in meditation today. Often in the New Age and the spiritual community, it's a lot of bliss chasing, right? Bliss chasing through psychedelics, bliss chasing through intense breath work, bliss chasing through extreme fasting, like what we're talking about, but not prepared properly. It could be done through ceremonies, activations, channeling, all kinds of all the things that shift our consciousness in a very quick way, and often in a way that requires some external stimulus or some very intensive movement of something, right? Very intense mouth breathing, take some ayahuasca, or I don't know, go and just do like 10 days in a row of just real intense like meditation and just getting your ass beat by emotional work or something. Anything we're doing where we think what we're doing is going to save us from where we're at, like I just have to do this. I just gotta. It's gonna change everything. This kind of over the mountain type of perspective. Not it. You can do it, and likely all of you have and will and may continue. But it's just recognizing that when that's done, the pendulum is really moving. So if that is done, we have to be aware of the fact that pendulum will come back. We will have to face what happens when the body has to balance all of that out. Because when we release all these, endorphins, all the dopamine, all the brain chemicals, when we're pulling in new light energy, we're opening up. Opening up's not the best term, but we're assimilating, harmonious frequency. Then everything that's not harmonious will have to go. So if we are previously, before we get into those experiences, in a very kind of almost desperate state, like, oh, I feel so much pain and suffering, so I have to engage in this experience and I'm going to do it and I'm really focused, like blah, blah, blah. Then all that does is you're going to have to face that on the way back. Just understand, right? So if we move to the bliss, we're like, I got to get to the bliss, I'm in the bliss. We have the only way to actually complete that experience is to come back and to face the other side of that. So what I'm sharing is understanding that if we can go at it in a methodical way, in a way that we're not, firstly, we're using more subtle dimensions, right? So most of the breath work I teach is very subtle, for one. Second, we're using very deep style, like Vipassana, self-inquiry based meditation, or Advaita, Jnana yoga based meditation, or particular activations, say from the Kahlonic science system, or other transmissions that are similar, that use very kind of safe, methodical, gentle, energetic transmissions from higher council energy. So in these practices, the energy that is being used is very subtle. So although we're using a very advanced and very clear, focused form of meditation, it's still very subtle, meaning we're not having to use anything that's really shifting our consciousness in an extreme way, we're working with it in a way that essentially is manageable. So you may still have a very profound experience, a very essentially life-changing experience, but it's not going to seem or feel so dramatic in the sense that we're blissed out to some lofty state where our consciousness is completely changed, and it's like we're not even in the body or here anymore, right? It's all manageable. We all feel like, okay, I may still be shifting my consciousness, but I'm in control. That's a loose term because you're not really in control, but you are, right? Compared to you do a crazy breath work or psychedelic or something like that, and you're just like bliss the fuck out, but you have no control over that. There's nothing, you don't know what the heck is going on in those experiences, right? So this is what I'm speaking to when it comes to the pendulum, right? We're being very methodical in how we move ourselves. So I know for myself, like, I don't like to engage in ceremonies or big experiences. I'm not too big on people doing energy work or things on me that I don't really trust. Or even so, like, if they're gonna do it, I'd rather just know, like, how can I just do it with you, with myself? That's why, for those that have done, say, the awareness method technique with me one-on-one or in video, I'm teaching you the method in real time. It's an energy healing practice or emotional healing practice, but you have to learn it yourself, right? So that you can engage it with your own energy, not somebody else doing it for you. Which it doesn't always necessarily mean that's not okay. It's just that we may get to a place, I know for myself personally, where we're okay. We don't need things manipulating our energy or working with things too much. We would rather really self-navigate that to a certain degree, right? Or at least with assistance potentially, where again, we're not pushing the pendulum too much. Because pushing the pendulum is also akin to thinking that something outside of us is a god, right? Something outside of what is already the self is a greater than God than the self. It's a very complex thing to look at. It's just again, the lesser, better or worse type of black or white, good or bad. It's all the dualism. So when we're in the pendulum swinging and we're really pushing things, that's where we're thinking that there is something over the rainbow. Grass is greener on the other side, right? And that's what keeps the pendulum really pushing. And it's we see it everywhere. You just, I don't know, watch everyone on social media. One day they're great, next day they're not great at all. And it's no judgment. There's nothing wrong with that, but we got to get clear about what we're actually doing. Is what we're doing working for us? You see spiritual teachers, even a lot of like spiritual healers all over. They're having these huge pendulum swings all the time, and I watch it. I'm just like, man, like, is what you're teaching really working then? If the pendulum is constantly always moving like this crazy thing, So we just gotta be mindful of that, who we're listening to and for ourselves too. You stated that marijuana and psychedelics can be harmful. I'm not denying it, but can you explain more in depth? Well, I've done a full 20-minute video on that. I've done a couple interviews actually, I think, where I spoke about it. I made my post recently on marijuana that was very clear. I know you've been following me for a while, Christian, so you got to take a look at that stuff. I don't want to sound like a broken record with the psychedelic stuff, but it can be a door opener. It can be a fire starter. It could be something that opens the door for some people, but I'll just put it this way. There's no authentic, there may be like a small handful, and even so, I wouldn't view them to be authentically enlightened. But out of all the true enlightened masters that I've either personally learned from, that I have studied, who are past now, and then myself coming to a place of what I view to be, or what I feel and what I know to be an authentic awakening, nobody is saying psychedelics is going to bring you to these levels, to these states, to these spaces of awakening. It doesn't happen. No, there like I don't know how many times that I could say like where I would bring up psychedelics to some of my past teachers, and they would laugh at me. It would be a joke almost to think that the psychedelic states are in the same category as an authentic enlightenment or a true authentic awakening. It's not even in the same conversation. So, with that said, we have to understand, well, what's the dynamics? Why do so many people using psychedelics think they're having authentic enlightenment or awakening experiences? Well, for one, yes, they are potentially tapping in, and I know for myself, you're tapping into heightened consciousness states that feel like nothing like you've ever experienced before, for one. For me, it was very extreme. I had some mind-blowing things. I could write a whole book about my journey with marijuana. But the reality is, go back to the pendulum. I could go months smoking every day, having blown out experiences, thinking I'm Jesus Christ, and then you stop. All of a sudden, you're back to the humble ground, like nothing happened, like nothing even changed, and to the point where not even that nothing changed, you're in a worse state than you were before, because you now cannot access those same states, so you feel the longing for that. Second, your body is drained. Liver, kidneys, lungs, throat, heart. I mean, so much of your body is going to be drained. Lower chakras are damaged if the use is extreme, because lower chakras cannot assimilate that much energy that quickly, and thus you're starting to damage your DNA structure and your chakras. Likely your aura has been ripped open from some of these blown out experiences, so you have a lot of other beings floating around in your space, influencing, blah, blah, blah. The plant itself is, of course, going to be calling you back. Everyone talks about, oh, you just go and talk to the plant, and see what the plant has to say. Well, the plant wants you to keep taking it because the plant feeds off that energy. It's not a good or bad thing, but of course the plant is going to want you to continue to use the tool. Right? It wants you to continue to be engaged in that energy. So all of these things I'm sharing, I mean, you can have these blown experiences. You may start to, I mean, for me, it actually was a key driver in me contemplating God for the first time. A lot of benefits, sure. But, and for me, I went into extreme states. Some people may be way more balanced and may do it once in a while, once in a blue moon, and they have an experience and the drawbacks aren't so much. So then they can balance out that energy. But it only takes one experience where something goes not so correct, and you're in a potential multi-year healing journey based off that one experience, right? And especially when you're doing things like more, like ayahuasca or like some of the more intensive ones, people have no idea what they're dealing with when it comes to these higher dimensions. So I always relate it. It's like you're giving a Ferrari to a toddler. Like you put them in the toddler. Yeah, it's a nice car. It's a beautiful car, but it's not, the toddler is not correct. And I wouldn't say it's correct for many people at all. I know for myself, it's not even a question, right? It's been a good 5 years now. I think I did maybe one time in between that 5 years, but it's been quite a while. It's not even a consideration. It's like the vaccine or something. It's not even a topic. So, obviously I have a lot to say about it, but I don't at the same time. Do what you want, really. But I just know that, like, if we're speaking like some level of healing, I think THC oil and some of these things can be really helpful. I'm not for or against really anything, to be honest, at this point. I just know what works and what doesn't. So I'll just share from that standpoint, and then people can take it and do what they like. But again, I'll say from my experience of, for me, my journey of awakening was, I was seeking out the best teachers on the planet. I was seeking out who is the cream of the crop when it comes to authentic enlightenment, true absolute enlightenment, right? Who is there? And in my opinion, I came to those beings. I found them alive or dead, whatever, on YouTube. I found, and I came into what I felt like was the cream of the crop as to what's available on the planet right now. And it's what I share often, and I talk about many of these resources, or it's on my YouTube, whatever. And none of them, absolutely none of them are going to say that psychedelics are going to be a driver for authentic enlightenment. They may bring you into certain healing states. They may bring you into various pre-enlightenment stages. None of them will speak to them as being tools to come into true non-dual or eternal life, authentic awakening, enlightenment, whatever these various terms that we're going to use. But we're speaking of true non-dual enlightenment, like the stuff that, again, only a very small percentage of the population was attaining for a long time, but now things are changing because we have access to everything, you know, and we're sharing it all, and we're, you know, it's like exponential now how fast people can progress, right? So that's what I got to say about that. Whenever I smoke weed, intense paranoia. Yep. Exactly, right? Remember, everything has a vibration, or everything has a frequency. So when you start to elevate beyond the frequency of something, and you still use, then you use that thing that has a lower frequency than you, it's going to just bring you down. That's all. It's very simple. Yep. 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 Sorry, I'm just catching up on all these comments. You did Reiki on me once, and I thought of Halloween as a kid and cried. Yeah, I wouldn't do Reiki anymore, but that's good. Hey, Jess. Weed can be large fire smoke or, you guys are sweet. Just catching up. Good friend went through a depressive episode after he stopped microdosing when he was microdosing. Yeah, exactly, right? You have to go through that detox. You definitely have to go through that detox. That was my cycle, right? I went 4 years. I had the most blown open, mind-blowing experiences you possibly imagine. I don't think I've come across people that have had the same experiences that me, and I've talked to a lot of people. And not to say I'm special or anything, just that's just how it was. I think I had a lot of past life stuff with marijuana, especially in Egypt and all kinds of shit. But yeah, like I would go through, 3-4 months intense use every day, blown out experiences every day, and then stop, and then 6 months I'd be depressed. I'd be so depressed. I wouldn't want to wake up. We're talking about sleep earlier. I wouldn't want to wake up. I'd be had a wellness center, we're teaching class, I'm teaching meditation. Meanwhile, I'm fucked. I'm depressed, Why do you have such a high tolerance? I don't know. I was opposite. Very low tolerance. I could smoke half a hit and I'd be in another universe. So I don't know. All I knew is that for me, my journey was I was sensitive my whole life, and so it's just that's what it is. I also went through phases where I was only juicing, right? I was juicing and doing fruits. So when you're doing that and then you're using those tools, it's just way too much energy. And that I actually went into real like psychosis type states, went crazy. I was like it was rough. So I've been through the gauntlet, and not to say everyone's gonna have those experiences like I did, but I don't know, I'm just resting in the middle of all that. But it's like I said, it's just, if we're going to talk about like authentic awakening, this isn't even a conversation, because it's just chasing bliss states, right? If that's what you want to do, then do that, but you're not going to really come to the place where you're going to be able to rest in peace consistently, because it's a constant bliss chasing. It's a constant experience hunting, right? So for someone that's in that space, I'd be like, yo, go garden for a week and do something, like do really mundane things for a while. Do things that really ground you or humble you. Go and really sit with the emotions that you, the last thing you want to sit with. Like that's essentially what is the remedy for that. To kind of come back to ground, get your feet in the dirt. I smoked 2 times a day for 2 years straight. When I quit, I had extreme non-diagnosed schizophrenia, seeing shadows. Yep, totally. That's it, right? So that's where, we live and we learn. I mean, we lived in a fucking shithole of a society for most of our life. So we gotta get real with why we were seeking these things, why we use these substances, why we have addictions, why so many of us have faced the gauntlet. Because of course we were suffering, trauma. We were dealing with fucking all kinds of shit, and then we gotta live and make money and do all the normal things. So it makes so much sense why we have gone through this. So of course we can't fault ourselves, and we do come to a place of non-judgment with it, no matter where you're at. I know I wasn't for a long time, but we can come to that, and then we see like, yeah, there's benefit in the lessons that we have learned. But now, as we connect to our natural state, our breath, the sunlight, just the source of being, which is everywhere. It's neither here nor there. It's in every place, and it's accessible all the time. Well, once we have seen that we've seen it's right under our nose, it's the most ordinary thing, and yet it's the most absolute, highest of high things that we could be seeking. As that starts to come and be remembered, then all of the things that we essentially look at as a little bit higher than other things, right? Like the weed or the food or the drinks or the, I don't know, anything can be that. Anything can be that. All of those will start to kind of just nullify, because we recognize, well, if what we've been seeking is everywhere and everything and right under our nose and always has been here, and it's our natural state, and it's the most absolute joy, peace, and love that we could ever seek, well then, nothing in particular is greater than that or less than that, and thus then nothing is, the reality of just this moment becomes the supreme, right? The reality of what is just before us, this IG call, is the supreme. It is the absolute end point of our existence. It's everything we could have ever sought out. That's the reality of what it means to truly awaken. And it's not necessarily like you're just in constant like shaking bliss. Your like eyes are rolled back, it's like, but it is it's just in a different way. It's just in a different way. It's more stable than that. What triggers psychosis? I'm just reading through two comments at once. What was this from Smoking Weed? Real awakening is so profound. Thanks for realizing who you are. Thank you for realizing who you are. Thank you so much for doing this. Yep. I'm trying to wave at everyone, but I think I can't wave if they've left. Body feels much better now. Raw Future Freddy's grounding. Yes, Jess. Can you touch on rape? I'm not big on it, but I know people are. It's like combo. People are big on combo, but it's not something I'd consider now. But I'm in a different place. Just remember, like, what's rape for? It's to release all the mucus. Okay, so what do? We just eat less mucus-forming foods. That mucus will start to leave. You can even start snorting some urine. Actually, that's a really good practice. Most people want to do that, but that's actually a really good practice. But even that's not necessary. If you just start cutting out what is creating the mucus, then that mucus will start to leave, and you just won't have it, right? So rape and all that won't be necessary, right? I know it may have some other effects and stuff, but I know that one of the keys is to clear out the sinuses. But the sinuses, they extend here, big deposit here, right? All of that is cleared out, and you'll see it in your skin. You won't have breakouts in those areas. It'll be like golden, because mucus forming stuff is not there. So that's the route I would go. Same with like combo and stuff. It's like, you're purging out, but like it's, I don't know. It's just like all these kind of like tools, to me, they're wrapped in a very like similar basket, So it's like rape, combo, coffee enemas, even some of the flushes, like the liver flushes and stuff, I'm not like big fans of. All of it, mainly because like, firstly, I haven't done many of them because like I just always felt they were a bit off, and then I experienced the benefits of exactly what they're promoting, but from a lifestyle change, not a hack. See the difference? When we're approaching things with hacks, we often aren't willing to change the lifestyle. So it's fine, we can do that, but it's not going to provide the long-term benefit. So it's like, okay, we can do these things, and keep cycling them and do them, but we're always reliant on those hacks because the lifestyle hasn't changed. So we haven't actually solved the issue. That's the core, right? So, I mean, I guess everything, like, we go through our phases, we have to do what we got to do. And lifestyle change, lifestyle change can be a big thing in the mind, but when we actually come into action, it's not a big thing, because the only thing we're avoiding when we hold lifestyle change, like, oh, I got to eat fruit for a year. It's like, well, that's a huge change. Nobody's going to want to do that if they're eating whatever. But if we recognize that, well, if we just make the subtle small shifts, moment to moment, and I know Jess knows this, and we all kind of know this, but It's just a reminder of like, it's the micro changes, the micro steps. So if everything's broke up into micro, then we can do like 5 positive micros and 3 not so positive micros, and we're still ahead, right? Instead of like the black or white thinking like, oh, I got to go all in and be absolutely perfect. It just doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. So yeah, that's kind of what I had to say. The RUP, and like, it's just, there's a lot, and I could probably batch a bunch of other things in that combo. It's similar to the conversation I've had people about like Kangen water and these big like expensive herbal cleanses and different things. And it's like, I'm not against products, but just when you really start to apply these things and you understand like the principles of what we're speaking to, a lot of those types of things, you start to see like the holes in them. You start to see like, again, a lot of the business element behind it too, which again, I'm not against business, but there's a balance here that we have to play. And yeah, even in the detox community, there's just, it's like when you go in the shampoo aisle and there's 100 different forms of shampoo from 100 different brands. It's just capitalism that creates, it's the egoic drive to create more things that are unnecessary. And that's how I feel with a lot of these different tools that may have worked in the past. They may be still beneficial now. But I do feel like there's just another layer we can get to that actually may take longer, may not be the most like direct, fast, right away results, but it's actually not that much longer, and it's more long-term, more beneficial. Yeah, okay, I'll go to the question a second. If the question's still there. DMT can be deconditioning, clearing the character, healing like a step, some intention or communication with the molecule. Well, I can't speak to the potency of DMT because I've never done it. I've had experiences that from what I've heard, or what my vantage point is of what I've heard other people's experience. I've had many experiences that are similar, so I understand the concept. I know a couple people in particular who talk about it, talk how great it is, but again, it's just the same thing. It's like nobody I know that is authentically enlightened. We're speaking of like the Jesus Christ, the Buddhas, the Lao Tzus, the Ramakrishnas, the Ramana Maharshi, the Nisargadatas, the Ramajis, the Yogi Raj, the Siddhanath, the Nath yogis. We're speaking of the many lineages of Tibetan monks. Like, we're speaking of the real masters, and we're all real masters. We can be. May have not realized it yet, but we all can be. None of them are going to be speaking to that. So, I mean, we take it for what it's worth, right? I reflect on this often. There's teachings all over the place that are perpetuated by essentially the unenlightened that create more confusion often. There's still benefit in some of them, but for me, it was like, okay, it took me a while to come to this. It took me many years, actually. But in 2015-2016 is when things shifted for me, where I started recognizing what I was actually seeking, what enlightenment or what awakening actually was. I had a glimpse of it, tasting the fruit. That's what shifted who I was starting to listen to, who I really wanted to be listening to, what are the teachers that were really speaking the truth. Half the time I didn't understand what they were saying, or exactly, or I was trying to figure it out, whatever, but I was like, okay, well, that's who I want to go to, that's who I want to focus on, right? So we go straight for gold. That's my point here, right? Straight for gold, right? And I've shared the teachings that have worked for me. I share them all the time. I shared about the Rasa transmission that changed my life. Talked about Ramaji, talked about freedom teachings, human design is a great system, the fasting protocols, and speaking to the breatharian path. These are many things that, people, the way I look at it is like, if you're here listening to me, you're hearing it for a reason, right? So I'm no guru, I'm not some master trying to like make you, follow me, whatever. I'm just saying, these are the things that I did. These are the things that I obviously still teach. And these are the things that are going to cut the path from this long-ass, grueling thing where the majority of people are not even really making any progress. They think they're making progress, but they're not really. They're just running around circles, Sometimes 20 years, 30 years. You have these devoted monks. I knew disciples from my old guru, 30, 40 years following this guru. I didn't really see what was going on. It didn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? So we have to understand like what are we really doing? Like what are we putting our time and our energy in? That's it, right? So. Yeah, that's good, Jess. I mean, I think it's important, to share experiences. That's all we can do. I mean, people, like I said, people can do what they like, how they want, but it's just once we've had experience and we've seen both sides, then we can come from a place of recognize, because that's part of the cycle, the completion of the cycle. Where we share it, we're integrating it, we're sharing what we've learned, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's important. I think there's a question here. How do I get to know myself better? This is in the question space. Cool. There's a question space. Andrew, how do I get to know myself better? Well, I would ask you, what do you find most joyful, right? Like what about your experiences is, at least on the fundamental level, like bringing the most joy? And if nothing, then don't have to answer it. Just start getting into deeper meditation. So I asked you the question first because we always want to go first by what we feel most joyful with. It doesn't have to be meditation or this. But if we don't know, then that's when we humble ourselves to what's worked for others, right? We get in the deeper meditations. Go on my YouTube or go find, I don't know, like a Eckhart Tolle meditation or something to start, right? Do 24 hours without eating a thing. Drink some lemon water. Right? Go downtown and just chill with some homeless people, give them some money, talk to them, right? Like, there's many things that we can do to get to know ourselves, but we have to first understand, what does it mean to know ourselves, right? So there's different layers to that. We may want to really get to know this individual expression, so like something like human design or Enneagram or astrology or something. We get to know, within this matrix that we live in, there's an expression that's there, and there's a certain coding that we hold that we can see on paper through these different systems, and that helps us get to know this individual expression. But at a certain point, that may not be enough, because none of that is absolute in any way or shape or form. It's a relative aspect of who we are, but the true essence of who we are is beyond all those things, right? And that's the underlying current that I've been talking about a bit today, of what authentic awakening is. It has nothing to do with the crystals of the human design or the emotional healing or all the blissed out angel experiences or how many beings how many past lives you remember. None of that makes any difference. Neo agrees. Neo. Well, Neo is agreeing with us. Neo, Mr. Neo, come here. Come here, Neo. I don't have a treat for him, and he's very consumed. Oh, he's coming. Come here. There you go. Up. Yep. Or how much urine you snort. Exactly. 100%. Even though, urine therapy is very profound. I haven't talked about it much. I was actually very surprised on how little negative comments I got on my recent post where I showed the fasting diagram, because that was actually the first time I think I've openly spoke about urine therapy or fasting or drinking it or putting it on your skin or whatever, even though I've been doing it for quite a while. And I know many people that do, and I certainly see and know the benefits of it. But I don't know if I'll speak to it today. He was on guard. Hears a little noise and he's going off. So who's here? It's been nice. It's been a good convo. I'm still down to answer any more questions if there's anything else. I think there was one. Money comes and goes. I don't know. There was one I think I missed, but maybe not. Love you, Neo. Neo. He's like the king on this couch. He sits at the top like a lion king. Yeah, well, I don't have too much else. I mean, we went through a lot of stuff. I don't know how much time we went, but this is energizing for me, of course. Helps me not eat. I've been eating again, actually, after my dry fast. Not too much, but and I got a lot of really nice coconuts. Best coconuts in I mean, I would imagine Canada because of how good they are, and I've tried pretty much every type of coconut water you can buy in the stores. And then I've tried the typical coconuts you can, like the real coconuts you buy, that which are often not even ripe, or they're too ripe and they taste like acid or whatever. But Homona coconuts, it's out of Toronto, but you can get them at T&T, the Asian store. They are by far the best premium coconuts you can get, I'd say, in Canada, I'm assuming. But if you're not buying it in a carton, they would be, I mean, it's the real stuff. Plus you get a bunch of coconut meat after that you can blend up or do what you like with. But yeah, probably going liquids again, and then a long dry. Next dry, I would like to go 7 days, but as I mentioned in my recap, part of the reason why I stopped was because, as soon as I find with fasting, as soon as you start to get into the number game, like, oh, I want to go 7 days, or I got to this, it can be helpful to a certain degree. I would say it's better it can be better or worse at any stage. At the beginning can help you be motivated to actually hit that goal, but then you could strain yourself too much. In the advanced levels, it actually hinders more so, I find, because as you start to feel more balanced with your body, there's a deep listening to what the body really needs. So it's very clear, like when the body just spontaneously wants to fast. Like when I roll and fractured and popped my ankle 2 months ago, I just fasted for 10 days after that. It was just like effortless. There's nothing to it. It's like, oh yeah, go on liquids. So with this dry fast, I mean, it's dry fasting, so it's a whole other ball game. But the whole idea of like, oh, I'm going to go 5 to 7 days, it did create a bit of that mental energy, and that energy starts to, then you just start thinking about, oh, I'm going to get there. Even if it's not even difficult, you just start thinking about it more. So that's part of the reason why I ended it. But with that said, I'm still keen on building up to at least 12 days, maybe over the summer, and then we'll see how that goes after that. But 12 days no food, no water will be it'll be a run, but I feel prepared. I think they put fluoride in the water for strange reasons. Yes, that's it's quite strange, isn't it? Luckily in Quebec there's no fluoride. Tons of other stuff, I'm sure. That's why I would always recommend distilling your water, getting a distiller, or not drinking. Of course, I'm drinking tap water, but distilling the water or just buying distilled water, that'd be very helpful. But yeah, I felt amazing just on juice and a small raw dinner. Haven't felt the fast call yet. Is an obvious call. Yeah, I mean, it's not too much different than what you're doing, right? It's just like it's just recognizing that. Well, sometimes you just got to do it. You just do 24 hours and see how you feel. But often, like, there is kind of quite a difference between eating any sort of food, like eating just a snack or eating a meal, and then actually doing like only liquids. Say a couple of days. It's quite. That's why, like, on my graph there, it is an exponential difference, because not only in the healing, but in the experience of it. Because when you don't have any like food to come in and satiate, that's when those emotions start coming up, or the habitual neurology is starting to shift very quickly. So the brain's like, okay, well, what's going on? So there is quite a shift there. So it is always a great benefit, once a week, even just do 24 hours or something, just to get in the habit of start seeing how that feels. But nonetheless, it doesn't have to happen. It's more about recognizing, like, the nature of consumption, right? Like what we started with today, which maybe not all of you watched, but I highly recommend watching all of today. And it's just seeing, the habituation, right? The habituation. That's all it is. It's just recognizing the nature of, if we've been in a habit for a very long time, like considering even to change that, the everything about the neurology, the emotion, any other parasites or things in you that are like, no, we need you here. We need you to be putting things in, right? That's all going to start like kind of erupting, right? With that said, especially like with the sun, in the summertime and all that, like and being in connection is, I find probably the most important element is being in connection. If you're in connection with others, if you're in, conversations, going out into nature with people, doing projects, playing games, it doesn't have to be a constant like activity. It could be even just meditating, being in the presence of others. That connection often, like, it satiates so much of our hunger, if not all of our hunger. Right? Of course, a lot of our social dynamics are tied in with food, because we think, well, if we're being social, we have to go eat, or we have to eat together. So that's a different, that's another element there, right? But if we start to, change that frequency dynamic, then we'll start to have friends that we'll be with that don't always feel like we always need to eat together. We could just hang out and chill, or drink some juice together, or I don't know, my friends we will just juice together. Like, that'll be our hangout. So it's a hilarious hangout. Like, let's come over and juice, So it's just, I don't know. It changes over time, right? Like a leaf falling off a tree. Okay, so there's other questions here. What are your thoughts of healing from fatigue? I've been doing so much processing through trauma. It's left me unable to do very much, and then feeling the pressure from family to work makes it worse. Well, it's okay that you're tired. It's not a big deal, right? It's understanding that if there's processing and all of that is happening, then that's what's happening. That's first and foremost. And as that acceptance fosters within you, and as it merges within your being, and you start to accept and enjoy sleeping, enjoy resting, enjoying cuddling with your, I don't know, for me it's cuddling with Neo, the dog, or something, like it's allowing for that to be what it is, then very quickly we start to see the energy starts to change, right? It's resistance that drains us more. It's like we're tired, we're resisting, we're tired, now we're exponentially tired. Right? Someone's got to put that in a meme or some sort of thing, I don't know. But that's what it is. So it's just recognizing, like, what's happening is what's happening. So it's step one. We start to see that. Now, from that place, we have to recognize, like we talked about earlier, if you weren't here, we were talking about with someone, what are the drains? Where are the energy drains? You just mentioned one. The family, the pressure of family, telling you to do shit, telling you to work, telling you to do this, that, blah, 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 blah. Family, everyone else has a million ideas about what you need to be doing. Now, first things first, we have to be listening to ourselves. But if we're not listening to ourselves, universe is going to give us others to tell us the message that we need to hear. So that's another thing. Listening is key, right? If we're listening to our body, listening to ourselves, listening to our environment, we're in a constant cycle of listening. So sometimes we hear things from others that we think, oh, they're not telling, they maybe not saying it correctly, or it's, I don't know, we think it's bullshit, or it's just our dad telling us this, whatever. But when we really listen, we actually really hear it, we can take what's true from it. We actually say, oh yeah, there is truth in what's being said, right? There is something that's true there. So that's just one side. But then there's also the projections and all of that stuff. So this is where, like, natural healthy boundaries and all that. But healthy boundaries, in my experience, is not necessarily something we're like needing to take the stake and draw the line, all that. That's not necessarily what is the primary action. The primary element is knowing ourselves, listening to ourselves, and listening to what our heart, what our energy, if we know human design, what our authority, is moving us into, right? Deciding for us. The body's deciding for us what's necessary, what we feel like we would like to act on. We always know something. There's always something. There's always something we know we want to be acting on. So we start there. And I mentioned many different things you could start with, so I don't want to overwhelm, but this in my experience is what is most important, because the vital energy will start to build when we start to release from the energy drains. I mentioned the family, we talked about the food, we talked about the consumptive patterns, talked about all kinds of stuff. All right, so go back and watch this too. 24-hour dry fast, yeah, you could do that, or with like lemon water or even juice, don't need to do dry fast, but 24-hour dry fast is a great practice. Would you explore a possible connection crossing between self-realization and spiritual evolution, ascension? Well, to me, they're the same thing. Self-realization, ascension, essentially the same thing. Now, ascension, like self-actualization, self-realization, ascension, they are different in some regard, right? We can actualize potential within the embodied realm, meaning in our physical life, we can actualize the potential we are accessing through potentially the term self-realization, which we're realizing the nature of self, the nature of who we truly are, the source of being. What is the source of our subjective lens? And have we merged that subjectivity with objectivity? That's essentially what self-realization is. Ascension, now we're on a path of incenscion. This is a shift that happened, not too long ago, really, within the last decade. But ascension typically was actual ascension through stargates, like at Giza or in other places on the planet, but Giza is the main one, to higher dimensional spaces. Going up to Sirius V, going up to Andromeda, right? Going to Tara, Gaia, Lyra. There's many different places we can go in this universe, but that was traditional ascension. Ascension was an actual movement, transduction of our body through a stargate, through a portal, and moving through. But you have to have a prepared body, right, to be able to do that. That's what Jesus did. He didn't die on the cross. He ascended through Giza, 12-dimensional avatar, right? So that you would ascend through pyramids of Giza and the halls of Amenti, which are the underground chambers. That's traditional ascension. Incenscion is where we create our own stargate and portal through our own body. That's the path we're on now. That's what the freedom teachings will speak to. Not many other places will speak to that, but I mean, some people will. Everyone's tapping into it, kind of. It's like we're not ascending to some lofty place. We're embodying the entire 15-dimensional possibility of our time matrix here and now in this incarnation, in this body, in this anatomy, right? So we're assimilating the entirety of creation, right? The entirety of 15-dimensional time matrix within this being, right? So we are rested in this now, not in some lofty place, but in this now, in this body, and activating that complete potential, and then learning how to navigate that traversing, because you do have to learn how to then traverse, right? Like if you wanted to transcend death, dissolve your body, pack it up, go somewhere else, right? Or leave your body here but move your soul to a particular place. It's more complex, but yeah. People enlightenment with unfinished business, shadow work, why don't they seem to relate to it? Yeah, okay. So that's kind of back on the Incenscion path, and just like recognizing that a lot of the teachings now in the New Age are about like embodiment, right? Because the feminine energy has been activated. So feminine energy, most of the past enlightened teachers that we know of are male, and the majority of them will speak to more transcendental, absolute awakening, deep meditation, in the cave type of approaches, which are very valid. And not all of them are necessarily teaching from a masculine pace because they're male. Like if you look at Lao Tzu type teaching, it is quite a balanced teaching, right? It's not just some transcendental thing. Authentically enlightened beings are speaking right from the middle, not masculine or feminine. Jesus, Buddha, these are some of the examples. And there were many others. Now, but we're in a time now where the feminine energy is much stronger. So embodiment teachings are more prevalent about relationships, the tantric experience, circle, the power of the circle and the unified whole of community, right? Which is more like Native American type energy. And there was always the prophecy of the rainbow prophecy. Very much was the assimilation of the Eastern traditions merging with the Western Native traditions. The circle, and then the traditional guru energy, right? Eastern has a lot of guru, almost hierarchical, but it wasn't. When you really get to know like a true awakened being, that's not hierarchical at all. It's just respect. It's just humility, right? So you view them as a being of light that can help you, but not necessarily as higher or lower. It's basically the same thing, but it's the merging of those two. Because in the Native traditions, it's the circle. The elders are amongst the circle. Everyone has a voice. So these are some of the balancing of the teachings that are kind of emerging right now. Now, when we speak to things like what you're saying, which I've seen in other teachers, and I've experienced it personally myself because I'm still undergoing my own integration, which is you can have an enlightened being who is an asshole. You can have an enlightened being like Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was known to be an absolutely enlightened being, right? To the degree of he chose the service to self path or the dark path. He was one of the only beings that was able to ascend to such a level choosing that path. And that's why he was like so evil, like beyond conceivable evil, right? Because you have to be so devoted to that path to be able to go that direction if you want to reach the same levels. But you'll never be able to reach the same levels because you will eventually merge back with source, not remembering a thing because you just dissolve into space dust. It's the fallen path, which is a whole other conversation. But the reality is, well, I guess it does relate to the fact that this planet has existed in a death matrix, a fallen universe, for a very long time. So the distortions on this planet are very heavy. So we will have a lot of, say like victimizer, sexual misery programs that have happened within enlightened being circles because within the dynamics of those beings who have attained certain levels, they may still be playing the guru card or the hierarchical kind of top-down phenomena, those types of energies. And although they may have great teachings, they're still holding a lot of those distortions within their DNA makeup, which all of us are healing at this time. So it's very important the level of humility that we keep coming back to. And it's inevitable. If you're really devoted to the Christic path, as you attain higher levels of awakening, you will be humbled. I constantly am, we all are, it's just humbled. And so when you're humbled, you naturally start to assimilate the balancing that you're not really you're not special than anyone else, you're the same as everyone else, you've just come to a level of higher responsibility. That's essentially what it is. Same value, higher responsibility. So that's more of the merging of the masculine feminine dynamic, and we already have seen this many times through a lot of usually male body teachers. I had experiences of this personally because I was trying to play a guru card, all that, and maybe still am. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to play a guru card right now, but it's just recognizing the dynamic that it's everywhere, and so it's so important that the humility is strong because the level of distortion, the level of influence that has been here on this universe and this planet for so long, it inevitably happens. You see it all the time. Gurus get rich, gurus do this, that, and they think they're untouchable. It's no different than big businessmen or big political leaders or the elite. It's the same energy everywhere that plays itself out. So we're in a time where all of that is balancing, and the true teachings are here, like freedom teachings. There is no guru. They have the scribes that translate it in. The teachings are there. You have them. Now we have access. Everyone has access, right? I mean, it's obviously quite hidden. You're not going to find it on Google or some shit, but it's all available. So it levels the playing field, right? So we can share things, right? We can teach, we can still guide and help, but we're all just, it's like we're more like spiritual friends. That's the dynamic of what the balancing of the typical hierarchical guru energy has been, right? And why we've seen those dynamics of enlightened beings that had still assholes, still a lot of trauma, still all kinds of shit, because still integration, right? It's really endless, to be honest. I mean, even like in Zen, you'd be like 7 years before you'd even open your mouth as a teacher after true enlightenment has occurred, and even then, it's still ongoing because there's levels upon levels upon levels, and when you think you're at a certain level, it's a deeper level. However, if we're speaking to just like what's traditionally been on the planet and what's traditionally been acknowledged as levels of enlightenment in Buddhist, Tibetan, Hindu, jnana-based yoga, like all of these kind of cream of the crop paths, because the majority of religions will lead to Buddhism. Buddhism was the most advanced religion on the planet, at least for authentic enlightenment. That's why the majority of enlightened beings have come from the Buddhist tradition, primarily, then Hindu, then Christian, and a couple, different others. But yeah, when we're speaking to that, there are certainly specific stages, and there is an end stage. However, that end stage is only a beginning to many other stages, and that's what Freedom Teachings presents, actually, and some other systems. But it's very rare you can even have that conversation. So I'm surprised we're even having it tonight. But yeah, so I'm going to catch up. I'm probably not caught up on these comments, but at the same time, people believe you only self-realize when you're perfectly purified and healed. I guess I kind of answered that. So we don't need to eat 3 square. Nope, definitely not. Koalas usually eat alone. Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I guess the question structured. No, it was a great question. Forest bathe together. Yes. Appreciate the answer. I think it has a lot to do with confidence and letting my family know. Yeah, and it's also peace, right? The dynamic with family, it's like when you've embodied peace and you actually experience your signature, mine is peace as a manifester, but everyone can be peace. It doesn't matter what you are, but if we're looking at human design, whatever. When you've actually embodied who you are and you're following your natural alignment, natural expression, you won't have issues with your family. That's how I see it. I don't have issues with my family. Doesn't mean my family believes what I believe. Doesn't mean they're not getting this, that, and whatever. They're not, all caught up in all the things. But when we converse, when we connect, when we talk, when we engage, there's peace, right? And that's all that matters to me. Ooh, yes, I feel it from my womb. Yeah. How about the absolute or beyond self? Can we Yes, of course. I'm speaking to that. Speaking from that. I feel when I'm in my beingness, I'm not trying to be more masculine. Just am, exactly, right? Masculine, feminine is still kind of a topic of polarity. It does exist, but it exists through the consciousness that we give it, right? So there may be times where we engage in this and that, but we are whole beings, right? We are whole beings, and we include both the masculine and feminine dynamic, and we are originally androgynous, so we are connecting back, and then many of the higher beings in the universe are androgynous. I missed your Facebook lives. They were so amazing. Yeah, it's been a while. I was actually thinking of doing Facebook, but since my Facebook got deleted, I have more friend requests than I do friends on Facebook now. Like 700 friends or something like that. I have more friend requests on my Facebook, so I got to build that back up. If I don't have to, but it'd be nice because I did enjoy those lives. Catholic Church Vatican will be apologizing for their terrible deeds. Yep. I consider Buddhism a practice, not a religion. It's true, but I mean, it is a system. Whatever term I guess we can use for it. I can't believe how good this was. Yeah, this is fun. That is so true. I stopped judging my rents when I stopped judging. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they deleted my face. Well, everyone's obviously going to jump on like this conspiracy. Someone, I was talking about vaccine. I got hacked. But who knows who I got hacked by? But I got hacked. It's seen by some like terrorist group. They changed my Facebook to some terrorist picture of guys with guns or something, and then I couldn't get back in. And Facebook is pretty set when they say no. So yeah, that was a great experience of letting go because all my businesses, all the stuff I built up for many years was all gone, all the pages and stuff. So I had to restart, but it's all good. So I hope so-and-so who, Travesia, I think it was, who was asking that question. I hope that was clear for you. I think she's still here, probably because I was going off on it. But that was that question there was a very powerful question, very profound question, because it's I mean, that conversation is just not going to be found in too many places on this planet right now. But I'm happy we went through it. It's very she is here, nice. But it was very it's very nice. I'm happy we went through that. That was fun to go through because I thought about it a lot, just different dynamics of those of nuances. And if you want me to clarify anything on what was talked there, then we can, because it is it's a very advanced topic. It's not something that's so easily understood and so easy to talk about, to be honest. But it's unfortunate, but part of the chapters is okay. Someone got hacked by gang, so it sucks. But yeah, the parents thing, I'm really happy that came up too, because of course I'd love for my parents to practice what I do and live what I do and all that, but everyone's on their own path, and peace is what matters. Peace is what matters. Everyone's all about this, that, and the other, about convincing everyone to believe what they believe, and we can share what we believe, like what we're doing today. We're sharing questions, we're sharing answers, we're sharing conversations, and that's it. It's not a place where people have to accept or have to do what's being shared, but it's just put out there, and it's more the energy of how it's put out there, right? And so if we're doing that with our parents and our loved ones, which can be difficult, obviously, because we carry, their genetics, there's trauma connections, there's copious amounts of things that could be alive and well there. Though what we're speaking to is, can we keep the peace? Can we keep the peace? This is all that matters. mom and dad don't need to know necessarily how to send their body when they pass, as long as they're in peace. Maybe that the peace will take it for them, right? They'll send and they'll do what they need to do through that peace. This is what we have to understand. Like, it's like, if that's the energy we're focusing on, because that's what all the spiritual teachings are focused on anyways at the core, then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it is. That's all that matters. So if that's what it is, and that's what we can experience, then it'll be so beautiful. And from that place, we can say yes or no, or maybe so, depending on what we authentically feel in any sort of circumstance. About what the parents want or what the parents don't want, or what the conversation in the family structure is, this or that. We can come from a place of peace and speak from that place of honesty of how we feel. But it doesn't necessarily need to create conflict or create a big uproar or create this or that, right? Because you accept yourself, and thus others will accept you, and then there's some beauty. Of course, it wasn't always like that. It's taken a while for my experience with my parents to become like this. And not to say it's perfect, but compared to when I was, I don't know, running a business, smoking weed all day, talking about Illuminati and shit like that, it was a way different experience back then. I was probably 2012, I guess, 2011 maybe. Yeah, 2011 was when that started. So yeah, that's what I gotta say about that. Okay. Yes, thank you. Super clear. That was the first open. It will unfold. Yep. Yeah, there was a part of my life where I was consistently trying to change my parents, and there was so much friction. Yeah, funny how that works, eh? Social media allows to curate our experience. It sure does. I like that nothing is happening here. Yep. My mom will always be Christian. She's at peace. That's nice. Christianity in so many ways, I mean, it's based on the original Christic path of the freedom teachings, the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order teachings, Law of One, Christic path. That's the origins. Of course, what we've come to know as Christianity is a bit different, but that energy is still there. So and again, when we connect to the purity in ourselves, we connect to the purity of everything. So we will pull the gold out of it all, and then we can trust that others will pull the gold out of it all as well. That's the key understanding, right? Like, when we lose the dogmas of everything, because that's what true awakening does, is it dissolves all dogmas. So you can't even have a teaching. That's why, like, with me, I feel people might feel that with my page. I talk about so many different elements of the awakening path. There is no one teaching. I don't have one teaching. I don't have a niche. I don't, maybe awakening is the niche, or being happy or loving or whatever, but there's no one teaching, because you can't have a teacher. The dogmas are gone. So that so when that happens, then that's how we can truly love others, because they're ourselves. We see them as ourselves, right? And we don't see because if we have dogmas, then everything that's not that dogma is an enemy. It's the devil. You see? So if we are dogmatic in our thinking, and then we look at a loved one and they are not aligned with that, well, then they, or what they think, is the devil. That's essentially what happens unconsciously and consciously. So that's where the convincing and the need to save and the lack of trust and the lack of faith and all of that starts to manifest. And there's no love. I mean, there's subtle levels of love, because love is always there, but it's just all this mosh posh, instead of just seeing who they are and what they are and how they are, and enjoying the presence of that, the silence of that, no matter how it's appearing, as long as it's not harming anyone. That's where the line is naturally drawn. But that's it, and even that starts to change, because if you're a walking light beam, then there's a transmutation happening, everything, all the time, constantly, everywhere you go. You're supporting things without even saying a word, without saying anything spiritual, anything cool, helpful. It's like, it's funny. A bunch of questions. Rose, Emerald Order is a beautiful energy. It sure is. Wow. Yep. Yeah, this is very juicy tonight. I was gonna go sun gaze, but The sun is gone. This is my sun gazing, seeing all of you in the ethers. Who else is here? Yeah, well, I don't need to go anywhere, but I am complete for that moment, at least. Juicy. Let's have some juice. Yes. Hopefully everyone saw my juice post this week. That was gold. Those juices are prime. Especially grape lemon. I haven't had grape lemon in a little while, and could definitely enjoy it. I have a huge watermelon I got to juice tomorrow morning before it goes bad. But I'm really digging the coconut water, to be honest, though. I can be Buddhist and Christian and secular. Yep. All of the above. All of the above. Just a matter of degree. Everything's a matter of degree. You know, it's the same with the detox like pyramid that I share. You know, it's like everything's a matter of degree. It's not like as soon as you start eating, healing is stopped. You know, everything's a matter of degree. So if you understand that everything is just a matter of degree and not black or white, everything changes, because everything is still a little bit of everything else. Fear is still a little bit of love. Love is still a little bit of fear. Like everything within the oscillation of degree is still containing its opposite, because it's all made of the same energy. Right? So when we get out of the two eyes dualism, and we've really rested in our natural state where we can see from third eye, we can see from the heart, we can see from original spark, then we see that within everything. We see everything is just oscillation of degree. So if everything is just an oscillation of degree of the same one thing, the same one energy, then again everything shifts, because nothing is black or white. Thus, it's never the absolute end of the world, like some situation, and it's never the absolute end over the rainbow. You know, it's like none of that. All that is dissolved. All that kind of completely goes out the window, right? And so then even if those arisings do come, if those ideas do come, then we see them just as an oscillation of degree. You know, it's like, okay, so it's a beautiful way to live. It's a beautiful way to live. It's the only way to live, really, because that's when life actually begins. It's like enlightenment is step one, right? It's the beginning of eternity. So when we awaken, we've just opened the doors to eternity. So it's like, okay, I'm going to live forever now. That's what awakening is. When you become enlightened, there's different stages of enlightenment, but we are just moving through the layers of eternity. So we're recognizing that, I have lived already eternally, and I will live eternally, and now I have the choice to remember all of it, because I'm choosing the path of the Christic way, the aligned path of light, and in that, there's no rush, there's no real weight on the shoulders. I'm not afraid of death any longer. I'm not afraid of disease and all the fear mongering. The whole planet could go to shit. The whole Illuminati could shut everything down, and we got to leave. Well, we're gonna go on to somewhere else. Some other place is gonna call our name. So it's never the end. It's never over the rainbow, because we recognize, well, here is fine, because I'm in infinite eternity anyway. So it's not like I can go anywhere. You can't go to the end of the universe, the end of infinity, or it's not going anywhere. I remember that was one funny thing about ayahuasca journey once. It was like I was just telling myself, like, where the fuck do you think you're going? I think that was one of the last ones where I was just like, what am I doing? Oh shit. This is funny. Hope I always get to travel with you, yeah. Fun travels through the cosmos. I watched something interesting from a friend that kind of just broke down the twin flame soul family dynamics, which is always cool because oftentimes we're connecting, coming across many people we've already come across many times before, and that's because we're all part of different layers of our soul body, right? And there's many layers of our soul body, and each layer is in multiples of 12. So we have 12 incarnates here. We're one incarnate of 12, so there's 12 other incarnates that make up our soul body. Then there's 12 souls, which with 12 incarnates that make up our oversoul, and then 12 oversouls make up the avatar, and then avatar make up the rishi, and then go into monad. So there's so many layers of ourselves, and when we think of like twin flames and stuff, it's like, well, there's a lot of different combinations of soul families and beings you're going to come across that are literally a part of you. They are just another face of the same soul. And this is also what, like, again, when we're awakening to those higher levels, we start to humble ourselves because our self-importance goes way down. It's like, it feels like it goes up infinitely, but it also goes down infinitely, because if we're literally a part of a soul fragment that has like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of souls, a part of the same avatar, which you are, then this one incarnation, this one expression, this one, human design version or whatever is just one little fragment. So the level of self-importance and all the drama and all the things we gotta think we're so, cool and important, we gotta do all these things and, all of that just kind of dissolves. And that's, paradoxically, that's what actually makes us live whatever we're meant to live. But it dissolves because we see, like, really who we are, and who we are amongst this whole collective of beings, right? That are ourselves, are all reflections and faces of the same self. So, like you say, a soul family is very real. Yeah, you feel that, you feel that energy, and we can't make too much of it. People make a lot of things of it, like the twin flame concept, and thinking of something is their other half. It's like, no, everything is whole. You don't need anything, but coming together with them can bring certain lessons, can activate certain energies, certain remembrance. It could speed things up potentially, it could slow things down too, who knows? But, it's different combinations of that. Yeah. So that's a whole conversation. But I mean, summed up in what I said, really, just understanding it's like, okay, well, we go through initial layers of personal development where we want to be empowered. We want to be significant. We want to have a purpose. We want to have a legacy. This is because we've been told for our whole life we are not important. We cannot do what we want. We cannot do anything special. We're not special. So there's a natural energy of oscillation that wants to expand. But that fire will only last for a certain period of time, especially if you're really, really focused on authentic awakening, because there's no room really for that as the awakening path starts to open, because as it really starts to dial in, all of that starts to go in the opposite direction. We actually have to meditate on the purposelessness, the nothingness, the emptiness, the insignificance of our experience just the same, right? With just as much devotion, so that we balance those energies out and we see that they're one and the same, just like free will and destiny, right? The universe could be absolutely purposeless, but yet hold the utmost, highest Christic purpose of all simultaneously, right? And it's a beautiful thing to dissolve the feeling of specialness and significance, all of that, because it just takes off all the weight off the shoulders, just goes away. And then again, that's what I said, the true purpose actually shines effortlessly, right? So it's a paradoxical thing. It's a beautiful thing, but it's important that the dynamic of those two are kept in balance, right? Because we can get really caught up in I gotta be serving millions, I gotta have a legacy, I gotta have this huge purpose, all that. When really, like I said, if we're looking at not just like the infinite beings in the universe, but just the hundreds of thousands of beings a part of your soul fragment, of your avatar rishi body, you're just one little speck out of thousands and thousands and thousands of beings that are you as well. So this is where the unification energy starts to come. And that's why in higher dimensional worlds, all the beings look the same most of the time, or look very similar, because the literal connection of unity is now manifested in the external right? Here we want to, like, dress up and look special and all that, and that's part of the evolution, of course. It's a beautiful thing. But in my view, it continues to oscillate and come back into the unification, right? Where we almost want, we actually enjoy being invisible on a certain level, because we dissolve into the whole, and we can then feel the whole, and that's a really powerful experience. Hey, bro. Good to see you, man. Oh, yeah. This is good. Thank you for that prayer. I pray for my health, too. The AI is a reflection of self. In some way. I mean, AI energy is still coming from an organic place, but it is a distortion, right? The AI energy is the way it's being used, I guess, would be more accurately to say it's a distortion, right? We live in a death matrix that is actually governed by an AI god, right? And this is depicted by I was watching actually just Justice League, the movie, right? Justice League, they have like the black cube, which is also like the black goo in many of the other sci-fi films. That black goo is in the Kaaba. It's in Mecca. It's in the Vatican. It's in a bunch of other places where there is siphoning of energy occurring, because that energy is going where? It's going to the Weaselic matrix, or the Weaselay matrix, that siphons that energy, right? So yeah, we do live in a fallen universe that is ruled by an AI god, so we have to be very clear with that. And that energy is very prevalent in the themes that we come and experience. It's not that AI can't be helpful in our experience here, but there's certainly a fine line. And we all know what that fine line is. We can feel it when we spend too much time on our phone, right? Spend too much time on your phone, you can feel, right? You can feel the web starting to get, right? It's the black mirror, right? What is black mirror? Black mirror is used for scrying. Scrying is how we speak to the demon worlds. So we understand that we are looking at black screens, black TV, black iPad, black phone, right? This is the black mirror. So we have to understand what we're dealing with. Of course, we're using a phone right now, and I'm fine with that, but you just understand how the dynamics of that flow, so that through awareness, we're free from those confines, because we will make decisions to navigate our experience accordingly, right? So that's a really interesting one. Keep forgetting I can't wave at people if they left, so I feel this. I find most of my power when I dropped all affirmations and just say I am. Yes, there's a beautiful practice actually with that, with the I am practice, which came from Nisargadatta Maharaj. There's a beautiful book. It's called the Nisargadatta Gita. You can find it on Google, but not many people talk about this book. But it's 250 or something sutras or passages about the I am. Because when we tune into the I am presence, we feel a sense of beingness. So if we focus upon that exclusively, and we continue to come back to that energy, we have to explore and see if the I am is actually even there. Someone was asking about the absolute state, what's beyond awareness. Well, the absolute state, or what's beyond awareness, is what's beyond the I am. So to focus upon that, the beauty of his practice, which is such an advanced teaching, such an advanced system, is one of the most simple. It's to exclusively focus all of one's attention upon the I am in meditation, continually coming back to I am. Nothing is important. Not the colors, not the visions, not the ideas, not the sense of beingness, the feeling I am, which would generally be felt right in the center of the heart and the chest, right? So if we focus upon that exclusively for enough amount of energy, we put enough amount of energy, put enough amount of time, hours in to focus upon that, well, I'll just let you do it, Do it and see what is actually there. See what is even beyond that I amness, if there is even anything beyond the I amness. Even if the I amness is actually even there. That's a mind trip. But that's what that book breaks down. Very, 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 very beautiful book. Nisargadatta Gita. Thanks for sharing that piece, though. I'm happy we talked about that, because such a simple practice, but revolutionary. That just that practice alone is more advanced than like 90% of the meditations you'll find. Just that practice alone. Exclusively focus upon the I amness and then go beyond the I amness. That could take years, but I'm just saying, just spend some time on that. Took Nisargadatta 3 years, I believe, that's rapid. That's rapid. And it can happen even faster now. Gonna be invisible. I'm still here. We good. But invisibility is nice. Go, just walk down the street or walk in the grocery store, put an invisibility cape. Just set the intention, create an invisibility cape. It's a fun practice. Yeah, this is good. Some juicy ass combos tonight. Like real good stuff. This is the stuff I speak to myself with this, because this is what I looked for whenever I was real in it. I mean, I'm still in it, but it's just a different stage now, you know. And I am fast. Yeah, essentially. Miss Agartha Agita. This is funny. I'll spell it. Nisargadatta Gita. It can be a confusing read, but it's it's so good. And you can spend time meditating on each one, each sutra, each statement, because all that's being pointed to is the absolute nature, right? Using the I am as the initial spark, because when we tune to the sense of I, we feel that I amness, but the I amness itself, when we actually explore it, is just, again, something else that's being observed. So if it's being observed, then even that is not what we are. And that's a very it can go right over the head, but this is how simple the advanced layers of awakening get. It's just that just because they're simple doesn't mean it's easy, and that's where the focus is required. You know, you need that focus to be able to really zone in on that in meditation and in all moments. Because that's essentially the practice, is that we're focusing upon that I amness all the time. Everything you're doing, every moment, everything you're doing, you're perpetually focusing upon it, right? Nothing else is of any interest to you, right? I used to use the example, I got this from some other teacher, I forget who. I have source amnesia. We often do in these days, but it was like this example of, like, you know, the spiritual path often is like us dancing around the spiritual fire with all our, you know, the accoutrement of spiritual getup, you know, like the crystal packets, the shaman, this, that, whatever. But at a certain point, like, we have to pull off all our shit and throw it in the fire. All our clothes, get naked around the fire, and then at a certain point we actually have to jump in the fire, and that's what this practice is essentially, because we're not going to be interested in all the movements of, you know, I had this epiphany, or I have this new dream and goal in my future, or, you know, I just resolved this past life trauma, or this and that. Those things will happen, but we're not paying attention to them as much as we're paying attention to that original source, that original light spark, because that's where all things arise and come back to. So if that's the focus, then we're going straight for gold with that, right? So I worked with that practice exclusively for years in conjunction with the rasa transmission, which really helped me. Not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's going to need that. Some people can progress on their own, or with other practices that are similar. Vipassana is going to be similar to that. You know, it's very, very similar. These are more advanced meditations, or some of the Kailantic work. But, you know, it's just recognizing that that's all that's really necessary. John Luke wants a hug. Sorry, bro. We're talking about the ultimate hug, which is right here. The ultimate hug, the hug of all hugs. Hope you're doing well, man. I see you're doing well on the Ometepe Island. Is consciousness like the dragon we are seeking that will remain forever elusive? No. Are you conscious? You are conscious, yeah? Who's conscious? You're conscious. not elusive. Dun, dun, dun. What meditations do you do? I went through an experience of I am everywhere I went. Everything I did, I kept in the background and dropped it. Yeah, so then if you dropped it, then the meditation should be constant. If you dropped it, the meditation should be constant. And in that dropping, you're resting between death and life, essentially. That's where the meditation has landed you. That's essentially, I'm going to say should very loosely, but that's, if the I am has been dropped, then that's where it will leave you. Now, then from that standpoint, this is where the playing upon like the multiple layers of our dimensional fields, or the multiple layers of ourself. We spoke about avatar, rishi level, you know. When we're looking for guidance, we're looking for guidance from our avatar rishi level, which is our true higher self. So if we have come to the place where the I am has been dropped, and we recognize ourselves to be the source of being, the source of all, which cannot even really be spoken, then this is where the clear translation of the higher self, or the integration of the avatar, the integration of our higher energy in this body becomes online. It begins very quickly. That's essentially, so the meditations can continue, obviously, because then we're looking to develop the communion of those layers of our being, where the communication of that self is who is speaking. It's like higher self is not in some lofty, distant place. It's what and who is speaking now, right? And so then everything that is done, everything that is moved from that place is the higher self, the avatar. It is exactly that. That's essentially, it's not some blown out experience, but that's essentially what then starts to be worked on when the I am sense is dropped. Or it can be worked on. It doesn't even really need to be worked on, because that we just know that that's what's happening. So what can occur from there is like the neurology, the trauma completion, the cleansing of the body. Those are the things that will begin to occur in the years after that, right? Because now, okay, source of being is realized. Now everything within the anatomy is not catching up, but aligning with that knowing. I hope that makes sense, right? So yeah, but essentially when I am dropped, there will be a very clear feeling that there is no farther place to go. There cannot be any farther place to go, because everything is it. Every moment is it. You are it. It's nothing special. It's nothing glamorous or blissful. It's not some blown out experience. It's exactly what this is right now. There still can be pain. There still can be a million of things going on, but yet there is a full on stop. That's the best way I could describe it, by trying to describe it without just using silence and saying I don't know a damn thing. Right? So yeah, so that's what my experience was. I'm obviously speaking from my own journey with it. But my initial honeymoon with that in 2017, after I went through the Rasa transmission, was seeking is done. It's complete. It's over. There's nothing left to seek. That's exactly what I felt. So I didn't meditate for months. But it came back because the integration occurs, and then meditation is just an expansion now from that place. I spoke to many phases post that period where the different cavities of the body activate, and this is where you'll find in many different enlightened beings and teachers or whatever, they went many different routes. Some activated this rainbow body, this light body, this, that, and the other. Some didn't do shit. Some stayed in silence. It's so different because it's just the infinity of the creative experience. But at least in my experience, what has occurred is a perpetual opening of the heart, which is not even an opening. It's not an opening. It's an activation of the light spark that's there. And also in the gut, also in the head region, which are, it's similar to the Dantian in Taoist tradition, but I don't really use that as much. I'm more focused on the freedom teach or the Kelantic anatomy. the light body anatomy, but I've spoken to it. It's like feeling like a sun in the center of the chest all the time. You feel like there's a sun in your chest all the time. It's deeply compassionate. There's certain ways in which it can be dimmed, but for me, 5 years later, it's a lot more consistent than it was in the first year, right? But it's very consistent now, almost all the time. Almost all the time. Not all the time, but almost all the time. And so you're just in a compassion ball. That's what happens. That's what we spoke about the embodiment element, right? You have to move through the trauma layers and the stuff that's covering the heart, or whatever, stuff you've picked up in the chakras. That's what will start to clear. Which I'm sure you know. I'm just reiterating it. Are you aware of benefits of drinking womb blood? I am. There's a form of tantra that you can do with a partner where you can drink each other's fluids and things like this, and it can be very helpful. I'm also in the belief that once you clean out completely, you won't bleed through during menstruation. Question sent before finish. After enlightenment, all creation just exists externally, so there's no final resolution to suffering and evil. Well, it's ever deepening. All I can say is that for me, it's been ever deepening. Like, my experience is just very peaceful. There isn't really much suffering. I still experience pain, yes, but things just pass by very quickly. It's not like this it's not like everything you think of as perfection just completely is perfect. Like, everything about the mundane is redeemed. So the most mundane of life can be the most absolutely joyful, because there's no difference between this, that, or the other. So the best way I can give it, it's like when you hear like some like old masters who would like biolocate as like a crippled old man, and they'd be walking down the street and they'd be like, oh, why would a master be like doing that? It's like, because it's so infinite, it doesn't matter, right? Yet it does matter. It's not like it just, oh, nothing matters, so you do whatever. But it's all we talked about it today. All the dogmas dissolve. That's the experience of authentic awakening. All your dogmas dissolve. So whatever you think enlightenment or awakening is, that just dissolves, because you start to actually experience it. And then when I spoke to you about the opening of the doors of eternity, now you've humbled yourself to the bottom of the bottom, because you recognize that you're just at the beginning of eternity. So it's nothing. It's really nothing. Right? And so then from that place, nothing can be compared to anything else. It's kind of like I'm reminded of, and someone else used this example recently, which was the scene in Star Wars where they're at the bar. I don't know if anyone sees it, but it's like all the different alien groups are at the bar, and there's insects and this and that. So from our vantage point here on Earth, when we think of like good looks, we may have like an idea of what good looks is, let's say. And I know now everyone's sensitive on that, so I'm not even going to get into it. But let's say we have this ideal about what good looks is. But when you're in a bar where there's an insect and a reptilian and a human, and there's no reference or comparison, because everything is just seen as unique. You're just like, oh, this is cool. Like, everyone is just who they are. That's what authentic awakening is, because there's no hierarchy. There's no saying there is a natural attraction to beauty, obviously. There's a natural attraction to light, natural attraction to nature, natural attraction to what's true. But that doesn't mean that there is a hierarchy within that. There is just an acceptance of what is. So that's my experience with that. Right. And then from that place, the reason why we all have to awaken, we don't have to, but we all are, is because if there's a certain benchmark of beings that are holding that frequency, then the evil or the death matrix we've existed in, all that can dissolve and shift, and it will, right? It will dissolve and it will shift because of the work that we have been here to do, and we are doing, and we've done it. Can feel pain without suffering, correct? When the mundane spreads its wings, yes, 100%. I feel that sunlight in my chest mostly every night, every morning, and every day. Very nice. Yes. Yeah. Well, remember, demons being suffering. Okay, the suffering is where it is through our own experience. If all is self and we have resolved our suffering, then we will feel the pain of what's happening around us. You see a child sick, you see someone, and you're going to feel that, but the suffering isn't necessarily going to be there to the same degree, right? And that's the difference. So that's how real change actually happens, because if we are feeling the suffering, then it doesn't matter who else is feeling suffering. We got to handle ourselves, right? Nothing matters other than our own suffering. So if we each are willing to take care of that, then we can take on the pains. We inevitably will. You have no choice, right? You will take on the pains, but they will transmute so quickly. It won't feel the same compared to when, oh, we think we're awakened and we're running around trying to save everyone, and then we're in the depths of everyone's pain because we don't know how to deal with it, because we can't deal with it. We haven't dealt with our own stuff. That's why it's so important to go about things in a proper sequence. Full neutrality. Yes. Hey, Kareen. Uh, Simply difference. Yep. My experience was weird. It was the experience of self first, and then the knowledge of what was happening now. What's left is almost nothing. Nothing has changed, yet so much has changed. Yep. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, definitely a good way of putting it. Okay, Ryan Sage wants to come on. Yeah, I'll bring you on. Funny way of working.
Hey, brother.
Yo, man.
Crazy time to be alive, my friend. Wow. Whoa.
True that, eh?
When's your birthday?
It was 3 days ago.
3 days ago. Cool, man. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I heard that some of your social media got hacked.
No, I don't want to talk about it that much, but
Yeah,
it was a while ago, and it's all good.
that's
It's
crazy.
all good.
Yeah, I know another profound teacher. It happened to him about 6 months ago as well. It's crazy. But what do you think? If you can make the division here, what do you think men specifically need to be working on in this time? And what do you think women need to be working on in this time, if you had to generalize it?
Um, well, much of what we spoke about today was like what I feel to be applicable to both. So I think both both focused on their path, their authentic path of returning to the natural self is primary first and foremost. And I feel like whatever polarity that any particular being, whether a male body or female bodied being, holds, that may guide them into a kind of different nuance of either oscillation, like just because I'm speaking to very deep styles of meditation doesn't mean everyone's going to find that that's the way for them, right? That meditation may manifest in the form of devotional service where they feel that same level of presence or that same level of knowingness in that experience. And I find that often will be female or female bodied beings or female essence beings, where they may feel more called to be immersed in the human realm, not necessarily males not, but certainly in the space where there is a focus upon, say, the child, focus upon nature, focused upon the communion of the circle, coming together in the circle. There's a lot of power that the female intelligence holds that I find that the male bodies don't always access as eloquently, we could say,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
So we may be called more into the meditations, more into the focused practices, the monk-like living. Um, and then at the same time, too, I think a lot of it has to do with um, the honoring of um, well, I guess the honoring of our creative force, and how it desires to move. And I find for male bodies, there is a natural tendency for that creative force that wants to, penetrate the world and move into the world and express itself in a very, say potent way, I guess we
Hmm.
could put it, right? And so seeing how can the male body energy be more receptive and be more in a place of listening, I think that's very important right now,
Yep.
right? Because the intelligence of the female and the intelligence of the feminine essence is in the listening. It's in the receptivity and the ability to tune to those subtle dimensions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. You nailed it, man.
Right.
100%. Are you currently in Canada?
I am. Yeah.
Cool, me too. I am in the far north, actually north of North Bay. How
Oh wow.
are you feeling in Canada? It's the cooler climate. We finally have the summer and everything, but how does it feel being on this land in particular?
It's interesting. Sorry, there's a bunch of comments. I'm gonna get to everyone's comments. We can get to them in a little bit. But that's a good question with the Canada piece. Oh yeah, it's a juicy question because there's many layers to it that like that I could speak to. I think on the most like fundamental level, just based on my own experiences, recognizing like wherever you are, there you are. I think that's what we always have to come back to, right? Like there's a lot of many layers of conversation about Canada, let's say, right, in regards to directions, in regards to tyranny, in regards to every conversation in the book, really.
Yep.
And that obviously has brought up a lot of charged conversation, a lot of fear, a lot of exodus, people feeling like need to get out of here or whatever. And I think all of it is valid. Wherever somebody's at, it's valid. What I've seen though is like we have to understand a couple layers. I think one thing is like if we come back to that statement, wherever you are, there you are, like understanding that you being in peace here is you being in peace somewhere else. You being in fear here is you being in fear somewhere else. It's everything is coming with you no matter where you go. Now, of course, there are beautiful charged areas in the world that can activate things, and we may feel a resonance somewhere, and that transforms us. But we have to be really honest with ourselves about how we're navigating that. I feel, and recognizing that I view that we're each in particular coordinates right now for particular reasons.
Mm.
And that's not to draw any conclusion or paint any idealistic picture. But for myself personally, yeah, I've considered moving and going places, and I may. But I feel like the transformation of Canada and we have to think, okay, Canada has been what, like the number one country in the world for quality of life for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, the karma of that, or the pendulum of that, has swung in the potentially the opposite direction.
Yep.
Right. So what does this mean for our ability to actually recognize, well, what's our play in that? Like what responsibility do we have in how we're engaging Canada, in our neighborhoods, our communities, in what we've taken for granted potentially?
Yep.
We
are
I think there's
ambassadors in a very specific way by living here. And one of the concepts that came to me was the generations upon generations that brought us here for a reason. So don't run to the tropics too quickly. Maybe you're meant to run to the tropics, go for it. But there's something very special about being here in this time. My ancestors are from Russia and Ukraine, another very divided part of the world of revolution. And I'm really grateful to be here as an ambassador of multicultural awakening. And I'm rooted here and it feels right. And it's scary. It's sometimes I don't know if I belong here, but 99% of the time it feels perfect.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a beautiful piece that you brought up about just the ancestral lineage. And I mean, there's obviously so much energy coming up here with indigenous cultures too. But also recognizing, like, even for those who are born here, as much as many of us may have many different lineages in Europe and all that, if we were born here, we are indigenous to these lands as well. It's something that's important to remember.
Yeah.
Right.
So they get that. The real elders, they know that. Yeah. And they celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, and I went through a kind of a run really understanding the legal system over this past like 6 months, and law of the natural person.
I'm starting
the birth.
school in September, getting into the belly of the beast. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Well, yeah, that's a whole other conversation, right? So when we understand our indigenous nature and the foundation of that with our birth certificate, with our legal person,
with
Yeah.
our natural self, and how all those intertwine. The just like when you realize the nature of you as source, you realize the nature of you as an equal to the nation of Canada, or the nation, or the man of Trudeau, or the nation of any other nation, the man being equal to any other legal entity. All of a sudden, the shifting in how we would like to navigate, you know, what is technically a legal topic right now, with all the rules and regulations and lockdowns and all that, it starts to really shift the paradigm. Not that you need to be a whiz in how to deal with all this, but it's just understanding just that shift, for me at least, the energetic shift, when I really started to see the connection between spirituality and the legal system,
Yeah.
night and day, of how now I see it. And also recognizing, like, all of this aside, everything is based on frequency. Everything's based on the oscillation of how our energy is flowing and how we're influencing, co-creating reality. So it doesn't matter really how intense anything gets. There's always not loopholes. There's always just a way. There's
Yeah.
always a way to navigate. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what the lockdown measure is, like, we have to become very resourceful, I feel, in coming
The
times.
autocorrect in our texting is a symbol of, yeah, man, it's autocorrect, and we don't have to be anxious about it, but also we have to fully engage. If something is lighting us up and inspiring us, we got to go for it. And what you mentioned about the legal entity, I think that's one of the most unresearched things that people really need to get. And I got into it seriously about 5 years ago, to the point where I actually cut all ties. I was like, I'm not participating in this. But it's not about, uh, you know, bullheaded sovereignty. It's about knowing what that contract is. And I think anyone with an appreciation for law or an appreciation for justice should do a little research about what that legal entity actually is, just to sort of wrap your conceptual framework around that. Because, dude, that set me free 100%.
Mm, nicely put, man. It's very important. And like you said, it's such a paradigm shift, because again, like you said, it's like you're not becoming like an anarchist where you're like like fuck government and the system. You recognize, like, the system, the government, everything works for the people. The people are the beneficiaries of all of everything. Everything that's made here, the roads, all of it is made for us,
Yep.
right? We are here to benefit by all the things that we've created. And of course, a lot of the stuff we've created has been just absolutely unnecessary and probably needs to go. But that will be dissolved in time, you know. And
Hopefully, Ark is all right. I don't know.
but yeah, man, like that's the thing, right? We don't like. I mean, there's a lot of anti this and anti that, but if we become more recognizing in really the beauty in everything, and how everything is made for us in our benefit in some degree, even if it's just the smallest fraction,
Yeah,
then that's the transmutation energy that I think can alchemize, what we're dealing with. But
100%.
who knows?
Yeah.
It's a
So a
wild,
big
wild
part of
time.
my life lately, I'm way up north. I'm linked with a retreat center up here. A master herbalist is the owner, so we're growing food and medicine. We're opening up a shop that we have. We got this new house and a big garage, so we literally have like a lab to create medicine and to help heal. And I think that's a big part, right? Is to get back to the fact that this earth is full of botanical allies. And I think one of the most rewarding things we can do is step back into that self-healing process, whether if it's eating a lot of fruit or finding a herbal remedy that helps you before you just go run to the doctor. Just give it some balance, you know?
Yeah, nice. That's really good to hear about the thing. I'll have to hit you up, because I was just thinking about North Bay yesterday, or today even,
Cool stuff.
actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll have to hit you up. Maybe I'll come up that way sometime.
No way. Sweet. Okay, I've got to go for now. Maybe let's tap in on the live stream another time. It was really great to talk to you. You've been an inspiration for a few years now, man. You're holding it down. Great energy, great neutrality, panning things out. Don't get caught up in it. You bring a good message, my friend.
Love you, man. This is
Yeah.
great to connect with you.
Okay, peace.
Thanks for coming on. See you, bro.
See you, man.
Oh, that was nice. Go give Ryan a follow after this. But I'm gonna get to these questions. I know there was some good ones here. Um,
that I saw. So I'm going to scroll back. If you have more, just holler. Holler, holler, holler. Okay. So, funny way of working through suffering came even after I discovered myself. Yeah. So just a note, like the awareness method that I teach often, it's on my website. I do it one-on-one, but there's other videos you can find it to learn it. But I like to do it one-on-one because there's a lot of nuances. That's the most important emotional healing process that I've ever used. I mean, I've developed myself because I use so many different types, and it's like a self-inquiry process. So it supports in if someone or is coming into that non-dual energy, but still working through emotional integration, because self-inquiry can be done on the macro of the self, right? I'm saying being done on doesn't really make sense, but it is like you're realizing the nature of self on the macro. But then just like a Vipassana tool, that self-inquiry Vipassana combination can be worked on any arising phenomena, any charged energy that arises within consciousness or within the field of consciousness. And so although even as after realizing the nature of self, things will process very quickly, there's still ways where we can basically like create like a laser-like surgery upon energetics or emotions that we are looking to heal, that are stagnant or things that are locked up in the in the anatomy. So send me a message for those who want to learn that. So I know there's other questions, so I'm gonna scroll through. Sorry. Best way to heal the heart chakra. Well, so that's actually a great way, right? Because what's in the heart chakra? Often the heart chakra is going to hold a lot of our connections and relationship. Some of the most deep-seated aspects of our connection to compassion, and being able to give. Like the golden rule. Essentially, the golden rule is like right there. It's like to treat another as you desire to be treated. To give like the sun, right? To endlessly outpour our compassion. So what blocks that? Well, what blocks that is, things we've taken in there, traumas, opening the heart to beings or energies, entities, parasites that have been in there, different things like that. So the same method I'm speaking to will help with that, because even if we just bring the idea, heart chakra into the consciousness, you could feel things there. And if you feel things there, well, then that is like a little onion ball of something to be explored. Right? So if it's to be explored, then we work that same process of moving to the core of it, realizing there's nothing actually there, then it dissolves, and then it's the same process every time. But that is to be done endlessly within anything. Any topic of healing will be the same thing. But with the heart, that's what happens. So the thing with spiritual practice is that we can either do it that way or we can just face it in life. So when we're doing practices, like focused practices, we are essentially, it's kind of like we're almost going forward but backwards in time, because we're going both. We're going back in time resolving, and thus we're going forward in time and dissolving potential challenges that are coming. Because whatever is in the timeline of what's coming that could be a challenge often is charged by what is unresolved from the past. So that's the whole neutralization of karma, I guess, or neutralization of unresolved energy, so that we neutralize and we come back to zero time. And that's actually where the gates of time really open. We become they call them the time lord. It's a kind of advanced topic, but yeah. Can you talk about the Emerald Order? It's a frequency I feel, but I don't know the language of it. Well, I guess these two questions come right after each other. That's cool. What's your perspective of eternal life? Well, so the Emerald Order is the original covenant, right? Emerald Order, the original group of beings of the Brennau, original founder races, creating the Emerald Covenant, which was the upholding of the law of one within all time, right? So the group of beings and the races that were coming together at that time would hold together the agreement of the Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Covenant was to uphold the Christic way, the original light teachings of the law of one throughout all time. Everywhere they go, they would uphold that. But over time, certain beings defected, different hybridizations of races, messing with other races, creating different breeds. Over time, starts to deteriorate, and then the deterioration creates defection from that Emerald Covenant. That was the original fall, the original fall. So there's many falls, but that was one of the original ones was back fall of Lyra. But there's one right before that. I think it would start with the P, something like that. But Emerald Order is those original council of beings. So when we speak to the Emerald, Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, those are the original race lines or councils that hold the frequencies that govern those teachings, the Emerald Covenant teachings, freedom teachings. Right? So all of these teachings, what are these teachings? These are the teachings of eternal life, right? The eternal life teachings where we recognize that we are perpetually ascending and coming back and ascending again, and it's an eternal process of ascension. We live in one universe that's a part of 4 other universes, part of 16 other universes, part of 30, it is an endless space, it's just beyond every conceivable notion of what the mind can understand. So again, in this period where we're in a stellar activation cycle. It's kind of changed now, but let's just put it that way. Stellar activation cycle lasted till about 2017. 2017 was a pretty mega year for a lot of us, right? And this period of activation was setting us up essentially for starfire, where this planet would ascend to become a star. Didn't really go as planned. The beauty is that either way, we're still going to be able to do what we need to do if we do our work, which we have. Some will say we have about 900 years to do so, and so we awaken to our eternal self, our eternal nature, where we remember ourselves as source, as the absolute source, and as that absolute source, we are able to incarnate, and in that incarnation, we move through our ascension or our starfire process, our individual process of becoming a star, essentially, and remembering our entire journey for that. So it's fucking long, so it's eternal. It's how many words that can describe it, right? So I don't really have views on eternal life. It is what it is. We awaken to that. We remember ourselves as eternal, and then we have no fear of death. We become breatharians again. We can travel throughout the cosmos, go where we need to go, do what we need to do, what we want to do, go to other planets that are in shitholes like this and help them by bringing the teachings and bringing our energy, helping activate those planets. That will continue to happen within time, and it's just endless. So in the immediate short term, we're in a phase where there is healing now to continue to be done and to support others who are coming into this, to just keep supporting each other so that we all can come into this. And as we all come into this, then, well, what do we think is going to happen to the planet and the positive timelines that can unfold for this planet and beyond. This planet is very important because it holds a very important stargate in the halls of Amenti, which give us access straight up to Andromeda. And that's why many of the, well, not many, but the core of the Draconians and the Reptilians, the Anunnaki, have been warring over this planet for aeons, millions and millions and millions of years, because of that stargate that is extremely important. And so just like in Star Wars and all these movies that are not fantasy tales, I mean, obviously they have fantasy elements, but they are based on these this forbidden history that has been, not told in history books of our local high schools. Just going to the comments. What's the law of the person course? Yeah, I don't know what course Ryan's doing. I don't know if he's going to law school. Definitely wouldn't recommend going to law school, but I have a great link I can provide for people who want to learn about law of the person, natural person, all that. How have your dreams been lately? Maybe I'll say that. So I'm catching up on comments, and I keep bringing up the comment button. Yeah, the Stargate is already shut down, yeah. That's why we talked about that earlier, the Incenscion process. We are here to, activate our own Stargate, our own portal within our own being. So yeah, that was a juicy one. Ryan coming on was really nice. I haven't spoke to him in quite a long time. But so many topics today. Holy crap. This will definitely be saved. I don't know how we're still going. It's definitely been over an hour, but I think mine usually go after over an hour. Yeah, Ryan Sage there. You guys can follow him. If there's any other questions, feel free. I think we're pushing 2 hours now. What is a good resource to read all of this history? Voyagers 2, the book Voyagers 2, which you may be able to find somewhere, Amazon. I mean, I have the PDF, obviously. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I do have the PDF. Can you expand on the topic of Incenscion? We already went through that earlier, Kareen, but essentially for those who aren't here, it's like, it's being able to create your own Stargate within your own being. You create a Stargate within yourself, travel through the inward process. Just recognizing you are you are the alt, right? So the entire framework, or the anatomy of God, the anatomy of the cosmos, the anatomy of the time matrix is within your own being. So to be able to learn those coordinates, learn those just like you would learn a map, you would learn those coordinates to be able to learn how to, traverse yourself to different places. Sometimes you can just do it through intention, in a simple way, but obviously learning the mechanics is nice. And so yeah, I mean, we went into that earlier today for those that want to go back and watch about what it means to, expand your being into the, 15-dimensional self within this body, and what does it mean to expand into that while still being remained here, and then, the ability to create your own Stargate and all that. These are very advanced topics that, like, 0.00001% of the population will be talking about, but this is all what and why the freedom teachings were brought here, and why and why we're where we're at right now. The Stargate that we generally would travel through is closed, and that's just no longer an option, but we can do other things. But yeah, Voyagers 2 would be the book to really get into the history. I mean, there's many other aspects of the freedom teachings that we can get into, but maybe not tonight. Yeah, you can go back and watch. Can you talk about Vortex? I've been told I'm creating, opening some without knowing. I don't know. I would get to know what's being opened or not. I mean, there's many vortexes on the planet everywhere. There's many different charged areas, and some are positive, some are not. Not all vortexes are good vortexes. Not, it's like you have to really understand, like, what that means. I would focus. The only thing I could say to this is, like, I would focus more on recognizing the frequency that you're holding in any particular environment, and the frequency that you're emitting, the frequency that you're being, and how you're interacting with that within your local area. For me, I haven't played too much with, like, grid work and all that like consciously, although I have, and it can be very complex and something that you don't necessarily want to be doing, like, without, like, some awareness or understanding of what you're doing. But at the same time, just the ability to go to a lake that seems very sad, or a tree that seems very sad, and to be able to open up flows within your own being so that you can support that being, the plant or the lake or something, in a healing. This can be helpful, right? This can be a very practical way to go about it. But being conscious of it, right? Like, if you don't know what's happening and someone else is telling you that this is, well, firstly, how do you know that what they're telling you is correct? How do you know what they're telling you is true? How do you know what they're telling you even matters for your experience, right? We have to understand and be and take responsibility in our consciousness of how we're engaging, our energies all the time. right? And we may not always know. That's the whole point. That's the journey of it, right? But nobody. I mean, people can tell you, people can do readings and stuff, but I wouldn't give it to somebody else to tell you how that is going and what's happening with that, right? But to be conscious of like, yeah, if you're, I don't know, opening up some vortex or something, well, is that helpful for the area or the environment? Do you feel what is your connection to that, right? That's what I would say to that. But some people will be way more in tune with that than I am, even, or anybody else. Like very in tune with where a particular vortex may be. Is it more of a positive energy or not? I mean, I'd be very wary about. For me, I have freedom teachings and different other systems provide very clear maps on where many of the core stargates, chakras, energetic points, vortexes, negative siphoning, vampiric energy vortexes, all of it on maps. So these are known of where they are and where the important ones are and what they are, and so I mean, people all the time, people say, "Oh, there's a vortex here, vortex there," but like, I don't know, what's the significance of these vortexes? What do they mean to me? Do I even care? That kind of thing. Like we have to get really grounded in that, because people say vortexes are everywhere and left down the street in the middle of the forest. Oh, the vortex is right here. And, I'm here, I'm channeling something. It's like, gets to be a joke sometimes. So we just got to get really grounded with that. I think the more grounding, the better with those types of topics, because you don't want to be playing around with stuff that you really don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening, what energies are coming in or not, right? Just get really grounded with that and be really simple. Like that's the beauty, is just get really simple with how you're engaging it. And then when you get into the complex stuff, you're getting into guided complexity through, like I said, like some of the freedom teaching stuff, or other systems that you feel really resonant with, that give a certain scientific framework to what you're dealing with. Because as much as everything we speak to about intuition and energy and meditation, all that, we could say, oh, this is like, it's intuitive and it's right brained, and it's like, no, like these are sciences. We're speaking to like very specific sciences that are extremely detailed, extremely mathematical, very, like, all of it, just as much as they are intuitive and by feeling and by the energy and the intention and all the other things that common person thinks it's only that. It's just the woo woos talking about intention, and no, it's like, no, we're talking about like the most advanced science on the planet, right? So yeah. Nice, 19 of us here. Say hello if you haven't said hello. And yeah, if there's any more questions, maybe I don't like to do a final call, but we've done a lot today. Boy, we've gone through a lot of things, a lot of juicy things. How old I am. My age is 31 now, which I don't feel old. I feel I have quite a few hundred years in me, if that's in the cards. Thanks for considering that. I did have doubts about the person source of that info. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're not a powerful being. It's just that, it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a powerful being. I don't necessarily think I'm opening vortexes every minute. Just, you get what I'm saying? How are you introduced to chaotic science? I don't know. It just came in 2012. But I didn't look at it for quite a while. It took me a while to really get into it because it's so advanced. Start reading that shit. It's like you're reading an advanced quantum mechanics fucking textbook. Hello, flowing honey. Yeah. So yeah. So if you're just coming in, as well, quite a few new people, I'd highly recommend a rewatch all of this when I put it up, because I'm definitely gonna upload this. Yeah, boy. So I'm so grateful for these questions. I mean, I can talk, but when the questions come, I can really get into things that are relevant in as piercing of a way as I possibly can from what I've experienced. And yeah, I'll DM you to tell me the story. No, don't tell me the story. I don't want to hear no story. I'll just send you some good techniques. I'll just get you some techniques, because yeah, it's all, to me, it's all irrelevant. There's just these techniques that You just follow the script. That's how I look at it. None of us. We just follow the script. Just follow the script. The same teachings are gonna lead to the same place. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Oh yeah, well, just scroll back and look at all these questions, beautiful questions, and things of this nature. Would you say you're well on the path to bioregenesis? Yeah. Yep. I guess so. We're all on it. My friend wants to invite you to our ayahuasca ceremonies. No thanks. No thanks. Yeah, yeah, no thank you. But to each their own. I definitely went into the psychedelic talk a lot today, and ayahuasca specifically is something I wouldn't be touching, but again, to each their own. No. Awesome, brother. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if you're joking with me or not. Maybe you're not. I mean, I appreciate the invitation. People invite me to all kinds of things these days, and I often would just rather chill with my little Neo here, or go to the park or something. But yeah, oh boy, ayahuasca is not something I'd be touching. It's funny. With greatest respect. What do you think has changed from the old gurus to the modern gurus? Like the old gurus required full devotion to them, now modern day gurus don't really require that. Great question. We covered that actually. We had a really good, had a nice little rant on that. I won't call it a rant, but conversation on just the dynamics of that. We spoke to the emergence of the feminine principle, which is emerging in obviously female teacher forms, but it's emerging within more balanced masculine or male body teachers. Well, let's just look at it this way. Firstly, the devotional hierarchical guru paradigm is a distorted aspect to this death matrix. So even though some of these great teachings or teachers may have had or attained a certain energy, the level of distortion is beyond them often, that they may not even know what's going and happening through them, for one. Second, because it's been the norm for so many thousands and thousands of years, that's just what it is. So the gurus just follow the gurus and follow the gurus, and obviously it comes from a well-intentioned place of respect at times, and there is a humility that is there, and I walked the traditional devotional disciple path to a guru, and I learned a lot about humility and that in that regard, and I needed that at that time, but it was short-lived, for one, and second, the guru they play into that, right? They play into that energy. So in previous times, awakening firstly wasn't as common. Second, it took a lot longer for people to awaken. The technologies or the transmissions weren't as strong, or the teachings weren't here. Now it's much different. Freedom teaching transmissions have already occurred, so that brings in a whole other new level of 12th dimensional higher and higher frequencies. Emergence of the feminine, all that is part of it, because we're in a stellar activation cycle. So the shifting is already well underway. So all of the dismantling of that guru paradigm is again well underway, happening in different circles, already happened, or now what's more beautiful is the emergence of teachers that can offer great insight and guidance, but are not asking for devotion because they understand much of that is vampiric energy siphoning anyways. You can name me a bunch of people and I could tell you exactly what's happening in some of those scenarios, right? So but the thing is like it's happening in so many different ways in all of us on certain levels because the amount of distortions that are here. So that's why it's so important that we stay humble and we don't fall into that trap, because it's just inevitable. Like, and again, like I said, it happens in big business people, in big government, elitists, gurus. It happens all across the board because those people end up becoming targets. And it doesn't matter how powerful they are, right? Now, on the other end, the authentic gurus, the real gurus, the true masters, the ones who really actually embodied what we're speaking to, did not ever ask for devotion. None of them. There's maybe a couple that may have, but the majority of them, that wasn't there. That wasn't the case. there is a natural devotion that will come when you're in the presence of someone, or you're hearing someone, or someone is supporting you in such a way that's transforming your experience, or igniting your own transformation, more specifically. There's a natural humility and respect and love that's going to come from that being, obviously. But the whole energy siphoning, guru paradigm, it's just no, that it's just not it. It's just not it, and it's all over the place. It's a lot in the Hindu scene, it's a lot in some of the Buddhist scene. You know, it's in the celebrity scene, it's in the Hollywood scene, it's the paradigm, it's the energy, it's the same framework, and it's repetitive everywhere. So now, like I said, the transmissions and freedom teachings are here. The highest thing any guru could ever teach you are in books that are laid out from left to right, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages through freedom teachings transmission. So what do you need a guru for if you have all that already there accessible to you, right? What may be required is the transmission. Transmission from higher council is always going to be supportive and beneficial, but that can get very tricky. And we saw what happened in the Kaolonic science community when things kind of went all crazy. Because the workings still happen. We're in such a deep shithole in this matrix that we are dealing with so much here. So we have to be extra vigilant and discerning with all of it, all the ways we interact with energy, and all the ways in which we move energy towards something, right? Not that we have to be perfectionists and overly like cautious, but we have to be discerning. But nonetheless, I experienced transmission energies. Very powerful. They were transformative for me. Certain Kaolonic science workshops of the past, and then very powerful transmissions from them, all very transformative. You usually aren't going to up level without transmission energies. That's always how it's been. But those transmissions, again, are not coming from beings, the Christic way, they're not coming from beings that are needing energy from you, right? They're not siphoning energy from you. And that's often what happens within the guru paradigm, where you see disciples that have been following a guru for 30 years that aren't really progressing. It's like they're running around in circles. They're not really any happier. They haven't dissolved their suffering. They're not at the level of that guru yet. After 30 years, you best be at that the level of your teacher, especially at this point, right? So if that's not happening, then get out. That's what I gotta say about that, right? So yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of things, a lot of things to say about that. Paramahansa Yogananda, I mean, he's okay, but he's from what lineage of Sri Kishwar? Yogiraj Siddhanath was like a subset lineage of that, going into Babaji, right? Babaji is from where? He is part of the Great White Brotherhood, the White Dragons. White Dragons don't have the best rap. We can't write all of them off, but the majority of the White Dragon and the Great White Brotherhood energy is in redemption. They're in redemption contracts often, much of them. So some of them, they may be healing what things that they have gone through, or engagements. My friend's home, I'm going to go in my room. But that energy of White Dragon, Great White Brotherhood, all of that it's an interesting energy. It has a lot of history, and not all that history is so great. So although Yogananda had a lot of great stuff and the Kriya practices, okay, so this is why I have to engage when we're looking at and we're deciphering teachings, is not everything is all great and not everything is all bad. And we've already talked about this. We don't need to be looking at it from some black and white film, right? So you could listen to a teacher that says one sentence that helps you, and everything else is not helpful. Boom, that's all you need, right? So as long as we're recognizing that although a being may be enlightened, they may be awakened, they may be this, that, or the other, it doesn't really mean anything. It means they have great wisdom. Yes, they have a certain level of responsibility with that wisdom. They could have a certain energy. They could have a great potential for and with your path, but it doesn't mean shit. You're an avatar. If you're listening to this, the likelihood of you being an indigo child or something of this nature, which means you are connected to and can potentially connect to your avatar rishi state, It means you're just at the same level, if not beyond, whatever. And it's not even a comparison thing. It's just recognizing we all have that same potential. So we're not looking at gurus as some like godly ascended angel. We're looking at them. We have to be respectful because others may have come to a much farther point along their path than we have. So we be respectful, we be humble, we receive what we need to receive. But to pledge our allegiance to, like, I don't know, all these things that some of that shit happens, or people doing fucking kirtans till they die for 20 years on with the guru there, all that, it's like, no, that's all old stuff. You don't that's not necessary anymore. It never was necessary. It never was the way. It's just what we've come to know. What we've come to know as normal here. Great hair, thanks. I will chill. I want to see Neo. Oh, sorry, Gabe. Yeah, he's gone. I had to come in here to finish this. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on creating intentional communities and support networks? Like the elders, respectful. Yeah, exactly. Respect everyone. I mean, shit. Everyone can be a teacher, guru in some form. Everyone can have a piece to your puzzle in some regard, and you can have a piece to their puzzle, right? And the more we respect that within ourselves, then we'll really be able to sit and listen when it's time to sit and listen. That's what's important. That's all that's actually necessary. You don't have to be a disciple. You don't have to be that to some teacher, a master, or follower, or whatever. You just have to be ready to listen when it's the time to listen. That's all. That will transform everything, right? What are your thoughts on creating intentional communities and support networks? I think that's everything right now. I think that's what we're doing right here. I think that's what we should be consistently focused on right now. Everything devoted to awakening to our true self, and a part of that awakening is awakening to our expanded self, which is our community, right? Resource networks, food, places to stay freely, gift economy principles, as I've taught, often, which I can speak to more. I mean, I have a whole course on it, on new paradigm abundance, on gift economy principles, how we live like that. It's when we're giving constantly, we're not worried about all that because we know, like, we're in the field, we're in the connection, we're connected community, we're conversing, we're trading, we're sharing knowledge, we're setting up frameworks, we're bringing solutions to various challenges, like, that's what's happening. That's the number one focus. Everyone's fighting against the lockdown measures when really we just need to build what's new, right? And people can fight against lockdown. I'm not saying that, it's a great thing, but it is very much the path of least resistance to just build the new, keep building the new, keep building the new, and then the nobody's left in the old shit. It's just the elite and their fucking friends, we've built the new already. We're good. That's what is most required of us right now. In simple ways. We don't need to, I don't know, like, I was up helping garden and farming. I'm not a huge farmer. I can do more of it. I'm better sharing knowledge and doing things. So I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know that I'm on the breatharian path. So it's not like I need to be growing a gigantic farm anyway. So, it's like we all have a different way in how we're going to navigate it, right? Gurus are just like all the other things that go in the fire. Ultimately, everything goes in the fire. This is fucking true. Yeah. Do you remember your past lives, and have you spoken to your avatar self? Yes and yes. And some of them, not all of them. I mean, there's many, but yeah, I know some of them, and I'm not speaking to my avatar self. I'm speaking from my avatar self when I come into it. It's a communion, right? I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's like sometimes it feels like, yeah, you're speaking to, avatar Rishi level, but essentially you're communing with it. You're dissolving into it. You're recognizing that it is you, and yet you have this small little incarnate self that's there listening. And it's an interesting experience. It's like people talk about guides or whatever, right? Yeah, but the community element, it's you're a great farmer. I've seen it. Yeah, in spurts, in spurts. But yeah, the community thing is everything. That's all that matters right now. And sharing the resources, getting resource channels connected. I think that's very important. And I've been thinking about it myself. I hold the 45 gate. in my sun sign and human design. So that's all about the end of money through the abundance of food, the abundance of resources, the abundance of everyone having what they need. That's where we're headed collectively. So those who hold the 45, me, it's in my sun sign, so it's everything in my life. Just it's like all I'm doing today, I'm sharing knowledge, but I'm sharing resources. I'm sharing all the resources that I've come to and saying, okay, go take a look. But yeah, resource channels, network distribution channels is important, which is the networks within your immediate community where all of your basic needs are going to be met. And equally as important is dissolving your basic needs so that you're not worried about it anyways. I was actually watching a great interview with a woman who doesn't eat, doesn't drink, and doesn't have any money. Beautiful, beautiful Russian lady who was very wealthy and, you know, just looks like a normal, rich Russian lady, but she just walks through, travels all the time, has no money, has no food, has no water, and, you know, does the Breatharian self-sustaining lifestyle. And no, it's a very unique path, obviously, but that is an example of what we're speaking to when we become truly self-sovereign, right? It's not for everyone. Doesn't need to, you don't. It's not a prerequisite to be breatharian to awaken or be in peace or whatever, but it can be. It can help. It can help. It can be a byproduct. You say that guides are actually higher dimensional selves of our own self. Yes. And also, but there also are council energies that are, I mean, essentially they're a part of you, but they are a part of different layers of the cosmos. So that is a bit different, but nothing is, everything is self, all is self, all is a part of you, all is a part of the makeup of source. You are the anatomy of God. So yes, everything you connect to in some form will be, you know, you, when you speak from your avatar self, are you made aware of your individual purpose? Yeah, to awaken, to ascend, to hold grid here, you know, to bring the wisdom of the Christic way through the embodiment of the Christic way, right? To uphold the Emerald Covenant, to uphold the way of truth, the simple golden rule. It's not some like specific thing. I got to be here and do that and this and that. I mean, it can be. It's going to manifest as that, but it's far simpler, in my view, right? I also, you know, once you understand indigo contracts and stuff too, you start to understand what indigo contract you hold, if you're upgrading, if you're moving through certain stages of it, you know. I mean, yeah, there's many layers to that. Look into Pino Massaro or Frank Yang. Mr. Bentino. Bentino Massaro. Lots of people get stuck up in the I am, thinking it's the ultimate reality. How can you transcend that? Well, you said you dropped it. I think it was you. Oh no, someone else. Oh, maybe you should go back and watch what I said to that, because I already explained that. But I can, you know, explain it again. I mean, you have to focus upon the I am self sense until it dissolves. So that could take a while. But if you exclusively focus upon it, it will dissolve, because at a certain point, it's like when you focus on an energy and then it starts to shake, starts to expand, it starts to lighten up, starts to kind of vibrate, and then you see that, oh, it wasn't as dense as what I thought it was, and then it just kind of dissipates and dissolves and it's gone. That's the same thing we're doing to the I am sense. Recognize that your I am presence is also to be dissolved. That's essentially what I'm saying, and that's what can occur if it's focused on in a particular way. You know, Rasa transmission can help speed that up. Maybe Kalonic work can speed it up. It's different for every person because you're coming at it essentially at the same angle, but in different angles, right? But it will be felt in a very similar way to most people. And it will just silence you. I mean, I talk a lot, obviously, but most of my day, like I'm speaking here for 2 hours, most of my day is just complete silence because it just is. It's there. It's right there. It's right under our nose. But I spoke to Nisargadatta Gita. It's a nice book. It's a very simplified, but not simplified book. Kind of paradoxical in that sense. What about Ventino? I don't know. I won't say much about it right now. He's great. I mean, he's great. He's a pioneer. He's a great pioneer. Great pioneer. He's progressed. We progressed both at very similar stages. I used to work with Anurag. He's from Ottawa. We worked together. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the same example as I used, you know. All teachers are also still on the path, including myself, Bentino included, Frank included, all of us. We're all still on the path. As much as absolute is a certain stage of awakening that is
very rare, I guess we could say. It's becoming less so, and there's still a lot of integration that occurs from that place, right? It's very important. But it is what it is. I mean, it's great. He's a wordsmith. He's one of the best at sharing. Frank is too. Frank is amazing at the languaging of those elements, right? For me, it's been a bit longer now, so I speak to other things more because they're a bit more practical than some of the stuff. Sometimes you get endlessly in the route of just talking about this absolute thing when really it's not much to talk about. You just gotta practice. But it's nice to talk. It feels good to speak from it and speak about it because there's a healing frequency in that too. But yeah, what do I know? Also, how can I know if I'm an indigo? You just got to look at the indigo contract piece on the freedom teaching stuff. It kind of breaks it down. You can relate to some, but things have changed, so it's kind of different now. But you can just go inside and ask. Doesn't matter either way, but it does. Hey, yeah, community is so important. Totally agree with your point. Support networks is critical right now. Yep. Yeah, good night. Welcome. Hey, Barbara. I think I missed the question. Trying to look. In the past, was ascension possible through death? Well, ascension used to be through the stargates, right? We talked about that, going through Amenti pyramids, the Giza pyramids. But you can go through like a transduction. So like in the Buddhist teachings, you have the Bardo teachings, right? Bardo teachings are the death teachings because they teach you how to transfer or transition your soul. And there are Bardo teachings and the freedom teachings as well, because there's a learning of, well, if our body isn't ready to transduce itself, right? So there was many beings who were able to turn their physical body into light. This is rainbow body in Buddhist culture. There's also layers of it in Hindu. There's certain beings who have done that. Very few, but a certain amount, where the whole body was transformed into light and goes to wherever they're going next. But if the body's not ready to do that, then you have to go through Bardo, which basically means your soul will go, you will move, and then you have to come back and basically transition your body after that, right? And that's why in a lot of the cultures, they wouldn't touch the dead body for 3 days. It's very important. You don't burn it, you don't do anything with it for 3 days so that the soul can fully leave. That's why a lot of souls are trapped, right? So, and then eventually, you cremate the body, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, peace to you. Wow, this is the longest live. Yeah, it's been fucking long, but it's been great. It's been great. It's been really good. A lot of good questions. It's fucking endlessly questions, actually. And what time is it? Oh shit. Yeah, it's been 3 hours. I don't know how we're still on Instagram. See, you don't have to be anti anything to get some good truth across. You just don't use trigger words. You talk about real stuff that actually matters. Instagram's not going to touch you. They don't care. Talking about the most advanced stuff you could think about, Ascension, all of that, everything that you'll need to deal with the beings that run Instagram or whatever. So doing it on their own platform, whatever. Yeah, who else is here? If there's any more questions, I'm still down to continue just for a little longer. So I'll probably chill out soon. But, you could probably go rewatch this a couple times, get a lot from it. A lot of really good pieces, a lot of resources are shared. It's probably some fucking dude in personal development land charging $10,000 or something like this. Oh, crap. But any words on the Pentagon report coming out this month? It's a circus. What I gotta say, it's kind of a circus, but it's actually becoming a bit less of a circus, to be honest, than I thought, than I've previously seen, because like awakening is happening everywhere, right? So that's also inclusive of people who work in government, military, police, this, that, and that. So things are happening everywhere. So it's a circus, but there's a lot of other things happening, and people are just coming to their wits about things. I feel it's hard not to. How can you not to at this point? Um, but you gotta like just I wouldn't pay attention too much to it. Some things may be relevant for you in particular, but a lot of it ends up becoming just a distraction, an entertainment, a place where we put our energy thinking that there's a difference being made when really we got like if you think about all the stuff we talked about tonight and all the things that I've outlined of practices and resources and things that could be explored, not to say that all of this is for everyone, but to say that like if you were to just look at or engage in just a fraction of what I'm sharing, you're gonna have no time for a Pentagon report. Second, if you did, you're gonna see why it just matters to come back to the practices, right? Because, well, what does it do? What does the Pentagon report do for your well-being, for your level of peace, your level of joyfulness, your level of feeling of well-being and vitality and love, your ability to ascend to another dimension or to stay here and to love everyone with the greatest of your ability? It may help you in many ways, I guess, the Pentagon report, but I don't know. Who knows? Completely unrelated, but would like you to speak on sovereign citizen of the land. Someone else asked about that. I have a really good course. Dean Clifford. There's many different individuals. I like Dean Clifford stuff, but I have a really nice breakdown that he did. It's a 2-hour thing that pretty much breaks down the birth certificate in layman's terms, and you'll understand the majority of what you need to understand, at least initially, about law of the person, your indigenous self, the birth certificate that works within commerce, how to engage the birth certificate, how to engage your person when you're engaging law, engaging police, engaging anyone. And probably the most helpful, that's even not related to any of that, but is helpful within pretty much everything in life, but let's say just within the legal system, is the understanding of conditional acceptance. What is conditional acceptance? Conditional acceptance is when we recognize that anytime we are saying no in the legal world or disobeying an order, we are creating a case. When a cop or someone or something comes to you and says, can you do this for me? Can you show me your license? Can you get out of the car? Can you take this vaccine? Can you blah, blah, blah? When you say no, like everyone is saying, oh, say no, just say no, just say no. When you do that, you now have created a case. You've just created a case for yourself. So instead, what we do, and this is in the Bible, because some of the like I think it was Peter. I don't know the Bible, all the Bible references, but there was a lot of Bible references in the legal system, because some of the prophets and some of the books of Matthew and Peter and the saints or whatever, some of them were very adept with the law, and they understood the law, and they understand the law's relationship with spirituality, right? So when we say no, we are creating a case. And so in the Bible, there's literally a verse. It says, and basically never saying no or never disagreeing with thy adversary. We're never saying no to the adversary. We are always accepting it with condition, right? We accept everything, but with condition. So someone is saying, show me your ID. It's like, I'd love to show you my ID. Can you please tell me, what crime have I committed? Or, what is the reasoning for this? So we're never putting ourselves below the apparent authority of whoever's requesting something from you. We are staying right equal with them. We are accepting their request, but on our terms, on our condition. So conditional acceptance is everything, because when you understand conditional acceptance, then you get into affidavits, you get into understanding how to interact with legal entities and organizations and the governments, taxes, all that. And you learn to understand the game. This is essentially conditional acceptance, and the dynamics of that is like what you're paying a lawyer to do. Like the lawyers, you're paying a lawyer essentially to just buy time, which part of that is buying time, but also just to create conditions around things that are essentially loopholes that other beings who want something from you have to develop trust with you. They have to jump through those loopholes, or they have to step through those gates of your contract, what you are determining as your request. Right, that goes for anything, any authority. And so this is very applicable in all relationships, because if we're just saying no to this person, then no, and everyone's like, no is a full sentence, I say no, all that, it's like, well, yeah, you can say no, but you can also just keep the peace and accept it with your condition. If that doesn't meet the condition, then, well, it's dissolved. There's nothing to it. The case is closed. Right, because when you understand yourself as a natural person who is the beneficiary and the director of the birth certificate, not the trustee, you're not the employee of your own corporation, you are the beneficiary and you are the director. So thus then, who is the trustee? The employee is the government. The trustee is the government. The employee of the corporation, your name is the government. They work for you, right? They serve the people. The government serves the indigenous of this land. That's why the indigenous have always been suppressed, because they hold the most power here. Right, so this is very important thing, right? So how to handle driving without papers. I mean, yeah, you could do that. The thing is, understanding is like, what I'm going to send you is going to help you in court. It's not necessarily going to help you. I mean, the laws of energy, the laws of how to converse, the laws of how to engage, cop or something like that. That may help you there, but this is more a lot of how to deal with it within the walls of the courtroom. So, just because that doesn't mean you're not going to get pulled over, get your car impounded, and then have to deal with that. You may still win, but you're going to go through, that. And that's where, people have to understand what they're really getting into when they embark on that. And there's a balance that we can have with it, right? Just because we have a driver's license, just because we have a registration, just because we engage with the system in particular ways, doesn't mean they have authority over us, doesn't mean anything. It just means we're registering our car. There's nothing wrong with that, But I understand why people don't want to have any of it. And there's ways to do it, of course, and there's many people who do it, but it's a quite the can of worms, and something that not everyone may feel they need to explore or have access to. But yeah, that's a very interesting topic, right? I went through a nice little period over the past 6 months that helped me really connect the dots between the legal world and the spiritual world, and understanding they are basically one and the same. And when we understand that, we've just grounded our spirituality now in the physical flesh, because we understand who we are, both with source as our natural state, and who we are as this body on this land, and in the framework of the Babylon, the matrix system, through the internet, the AI, because right now an AI version of each of us is being created slowly, right? So that's another world in which we exist in, which we have to be very just as careful as we are within this. And then we also exist within the natural world as the natural person. Right? Those are basically the three main areas that we exist, at least within this realm. I mean, there's much more, but it's kind of a simplified way of looking at it. Right, so yeah, that's a nice question. That's a good topic. But I do have quite a few videos on how to learn that, just understanding that dynamic. Let's see if I missed anything. They're going to admit that there are things that even the USA military is very in the dark about. Yep, that's very true. US is very in the dark about stuff. Aliens or Russians. I just saw something today where there was like a military lesson about aliens is in a military room. But yeah, the alien thing will probably happen. I think it's already happening. You can see it. People are starting to talk about it's in the news more, starting to amp up. It's starting to be a meme. So if it's anytime something starts to be a meme, that's in the consciousness. So it's kind of bubbling up. So wouldn't be surprised within the summer you start seeing they start announcing things, or I don't know, some sort of visitation. But a lot of it is going to be falsified. It's going to be using technologies to create holographic projections of aliens or starships and things. and all kinds of stuff. The positive beings are not going to be doing that. Positive beings aren't going to be coming, landing, saying hello. No, they're not going to be doing that. If they do that, they're going to do in very private scenarios. In these, we're talking about off-grid communities. Maybe that may occur in certain circumstances. Most of it happens energetically, not in the physical domain. It's not the time for that. But not to say it doesn't happen, but it's just not common. It's much more common that it's going to be falsified holographic projections, or more of the factions being draconian, Anunnaki, gray based groupings, which are not what we want to be engaging with, right? So just again, more of the circus and the drama to really spark things and spark more, whatever people react to that, I guess. But yeah, I see that in the cards in the coming times. You can already see it. My roommate's screaming. He's kicking the bots. Tired of AI. How am I? I feel good. I think I'm coming to a close soon. I feel good. How can we benefit you? I mean, I would say, actually, I was just gonna say to tag friends. Tag friends in this live, whether now or later or whatever, or share it when it's done. There's so much. I mean, another thing would be if someone wanted to watch this and tag and write out the topics. Time spans may be a bit much because it was quite long, but if anyone did want to do that, that'd be cool. And that's good. That's good for now, just do the work, engage. Obviously, if you guys want more one-on-one time, you can always book with me at times. I'm not doing it as much. I like the group. I still like one-on-one once in a while, but I go in waves. I mean, I'm a manifester, so I'll go in waves. But you can always book or, do all kinds of stuff there on my website. It's easy for these things to be drowned out by the media. Is it as long as the seed is planted? Is that the important thing? Can you clarify that? I don't know what you're saying. Is that in regards to the alien topic? I mean, to me, the conversation on the alien topic is much more common right now than I've ever seen it in the mainstream. You had even like Logan Paul saying it and his weigh-in or whatever, his recent fight. And, like I said, it's jokes. It's like meme. And then they have the occasional news article on CNN or whatever from the past usually. So it all just build up. It may not be this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the summer. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, boy, you guys have been here for a while. Don't feel like you need to stay. I'm getting tired too, but I probably won't sleep. I'm gonna go take a walk. But yeah, clarify that. Yes, in regards to the alien topic. Yeah, I mean it's seeded slowly but surely, so the acceptance is easier. Just like demonic culture and all the movie videos, like the zombie stuff in the movies. Everything just happens in stages, right? But I feel like anytime it's coming out in the news, that's when things start to amp a little bit faster. And especially, again, like I said, when it becomes more of a meme culture, when it's in the meme culture, because you see it, the memes starting to share more from mainstream, like more mainstreamy people or Instagram influencers or whatever. That's when the consciousness is beginning. It's starting to shift into that timeline a little bit more, or that topic. And then that topic will play itself out in a certain way. I don't know the time frame, but yeah. Do you feel this is a memory that outside of this matrix is a much larger organic universe? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit today, right? We live in a death matrix, but this time matrix is very small in comparison to the grand space of the universe. So within eternal co-creation, as my friend Christina would reference it, eternal co-creation is like the eternal, right? We live in a 15-dimensional time matrix that's just a small sliver of that, and it's right now like broken off from its original organic nature. So we exist in this time matrix where we think all these things are real, whatever. But outside of that, the rules are much different. As my friend Christina would say, who's highly adept you know, she would say how her memories of, you know, when we look up in the sky, we see black, right? We see the stars a little bit, but mainly black. When you're in internal co-creation, you look out, it's colors everywhere. It's universes, it's cities, it's endless. It's alive, right? Not like here, it's dark. So I don't know. That may paint a picture. Have you heard of CE5? That sounds familiar, but it's not ringing anything right now. Indeed. Have a good night, man. Yeah, you too. All right. I don't know if there's anyone else writing something. I feel like there's, but I think I'm gonna tune out soon now. It's been nice. I feel like I guess I will do more of these. I've been feeling that a little bit recently, but yeah, going my way. So a couple things I would highly recommend if you didn't watch all this to go back to the beginning and watch. If someone feels called to do timestamps, please do. Tag your friends, share the video, do what you got to do to spread this out. Because I'm a small fish in this pond, but what we're talking about is big fish topics. Because you're all big fish, so let's share that and yeah, perpetuate the wisdom that we have co-created together, because it's been a magical co-creation. Yeah, deep love to all of you. It's great to connect in this way. So yeah, let's end there. Have a great night or morning or wherever you're at, and yeah, connect soon.